The revolutionary AI engine driving Eternal Horizon isn't just game-changing, it's industry-defining, announced Carson Wright, VP of Development at Nexus Games, gesturing dramatically at the gameplay demo on the massive screen behind him. With adaptive learning systems that literally evolve based on player behavior, we're creating NPCs that are indistinguishable from human players. I sat in the back of the crowded presentation room, watching as my code, my algorithms, my neural network architecture, my 3 years of obsessive refinement was presented to the biggest gaming conference in the industry as Carson's brainchild. Each feature he highlighted with practiced enthusiasm was something he had previously dismissed as unnecessarily complex or academically interesting but commercially impractical. My name is Maya Patel, and this is the story of how the gaming industry's most anticipated AI system became the centerpiece of a reckoning no one at Nexus Games saw coming, least of all Carson Wright. As journalists scribbled notes and industry executives leaned forward in their seats, Carson fielded questions with the smooth confidence of someone who'd spent years immersed in AI development rather than the reality. A business school graduate who couldn't write a line of code to save his life. The most remarkable breakthrough, he was saying now, is how our proprietary emotion mapping algorithms create NPCs with genuine emotional responses. They remember player interactions, form relationships, and even develop grudges based on past behavior. A tech journalist from GameWire raised her hand. Can you explain more about how the emotion mapping system is architecturally different from existing AI models? Carson's smile flickered just momentarily as he ventured into technical territory. Well, it's quite complex, but essentially we've developed a multi-layered neural network that... He launched into a word salad of technical jargon, most of it either misused or nonsensical. I winced, watching the more knowledgeable attendees exchange glances. The system he was butchering the explanation of had been my doctoral research project before Nexus recruited me, a specialized approach to artificial emotional intelligence that had initially been met with skepticism by the academic community for being too ambitious. Perhaps your technical lead could elaborate, suggested the journalist, clearly recognizing the smoke and mirrors. Dr. Patel is more of a behind-the-scenes person, Carson replied smoothly, not even glancing in my direction. Brilliant with code, but these industry events really require someone who can communicate the vision to a broader audience. Translation: Maya doesn't look or sound like what the gaming industry expects from a visionary leader. When the presentation ended to enthusiastic applause, I slipped out before Carson could spot me. Back in my hotel room, I opened my laptop and reviewed the private repository where I'd documented every step of Eternal Horizon's AI development for the past 3 years. Every algorithm, every failed experiment, every breakthrough, all meticulously recorded with timestamps, progress notes, and video logs of key milestones. Most importantly, I had documentation of every instance where Carson had dismissed my approaches, only to later present them as his own insights to the executive team. Every email where he had taken credit for my work. Every meeting recording where he had misrepresented my research. I scrolled to a particular entry from 9 months ago. My presentation of the emotional memory architecture that was now the centerpiece of Eternal Horizon's marketing. Carson had called it unnecessarily complex and feature creep. 3 weeks later, he had presented the exact same architecture to the board as his own strategic innovation. My phone lit up with a text from Lynn, our lead environment artist and one of the few people at Nexus who knew the truth about who was really driving the AI development. Asterisk that was painful to watch. His explanation of your emotional mapping system literally made no sense. What are you going to do, asterisk? I stared at the message for a long moment. I had been asking myself that question for months, carefully documenting everything while trying to decide how to proceed. Today's presentation, watching Carson completely misrepresent my life's work to the entire industry, had finally crystallized my decision. Asterisk, remember Project Phoenix we talked about? It's time, asterisk. Project Phoenix wasn't just a contingency plan. It was a completely separate implementation of my AI architecture, one that was even more advanced than what I built for Nexus. I had developed it in parallel, on my own time, using my own equipment, carefully ensuring I wasn't violating any IP agreements with Nexus. The key algorithms were structurally different but functionally superior, designed from the ground up to avoid any potential legal entanglements. The following morning, as industry insiders filed into the main conference hall for the second day of presentations, I noticed a commotion near the central demo stations. A crowd had gathered around a previously unannounced booth where a stunning game demo was running. The logo simply read Phoenix Interactive. I smiled to myself, right on schedule. The demo showed a vast alien landscape where players interacted with NPCs displaying emotional intelligence so natural and responsive that it made Eternal Horizon's much-hyped AI look primitive by comparison. A sign above the booth proclaimed, "The real next generation of gaming AI." Developed by Dr. Maya Patel, former lead AI architect at Nexus Games. My phone buzzed almost immediately with a text from Carson. Asterisk, what the hell is this? Get to the Nexus booth now. I took my time walking across the convention center, watching as word spread and more people flocked to the Phoenix Interactive demo. By the time I reached Nexus Games' elaborate booth, Carson was pacing like a caged animal, his face flushed with anger. "What have you done?" he hissed, pulling me aside. "You violated your contract, your NDA, everything. We'll sue you into oblivion." "I haven't violated anything," I replied calmly, loud enough for nearby industry representatives to hear. Phoenix Interactive's AI architecture is built on principles I developed before joining Nexus, with completely different implementation. I've been very careful about that. "No one will believe that," he snapped. "Everyone knows Eternal Horizon's AI is groundbreaking." "Is it?" I raised an eyebrow. "Or is Eternal Horizon using an inferior version of my work that you repeatedly rejected before claiming it as your own?" His eyes widened slightly. "That's absurd. I've led the AI development from the beginning." "Have you?" I pulled out my phone and played a brief clip. Carson in a development meeting 8 months ago, dismissing the exact emotional mapping system he had presented yesterday as his own innovation. The color drained from his face. "Where did you get that?" "Recording meetings is against company policy. Documentation is actually my specialty," I replied. "I have 3 years of evidence showing how my work was systematically appropriated and misrepresented. Every algorithm you claimed credit for, every feature you initially rejected, then presented as your insight." Before Carson could respond, a tall figure approached us, Elijah Nakamura, CEO of Nakamura Entertainment, one of the largest publishers in the industry. "Dr. Patel," he said, extending his hand. "I just saw your Phoenix demo. Remarkable work. Much more impressive than what was presented yesterday." He glanced meaningfully at Carson, who seemed to shrink under his gaze. "Thank you, Mr. Nakamura," I replied, shaking his hand. "I'd like to discuss potential publishing arrangements for Phoenix Interactive," he continued, "and perhaps clarify some confusion about the development history of Eternal Horizon's AI systems." By midday, the convention was buzzing with rumors. The mysterious Phoenix Interactive booth was drawing crowds away from major publishers. Industry journalists were asking pointed questions about Carson's role in Eternal Horizon's development, and Nexus Games stock had dropped 7% since market opening. That afternoon, I received a message requesting my presence at an emergency meeting in Nexus Games' private conference room at the convention center. When I arrived, I found the company's entire executive leadership team, along with their legal counsel. CEO Margaret Chen got straight to the point. "Dr. Patel, we've reviewed some concerning evidence regarding Eternal Horizon's development and Mr. Wright's role in it." Carson sat stone-faced at the far end of the table, his earlier bravado completely evaporated. "Several major publishers have approached us today with troubling questions," she continued. "Questions that suggest you have documentation regarding the true development history of our AI systems." I nodded. "I've documented everything meticulously from day one." "May we see this documentation?" I opened my laptop and presented a carefully prepared summary, emails, meeting recordings, code repository logs, all demonstrating the systematic pattern of my work being appropriated by Carson. The room fell silent as the executives reviewed the evidence. The legal counsel looked increasingly troubled. "This creates significant liability for the company," he finally said, "especially given yesterday's public presentation and the marketing materials already distributed." Margaret Chen's expression was unreadable as she turned to Carson. "What do you have to say about this?" "It's a mischaracterization," he insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. "Yes, Dr. Patel contributed to the development, but the vision and direction were mine. I played another clip. Carson in his own words. Asterisk, I don't really understand all this neural network stuff. But if you can make it work, great. Just make it simple enough that I can explain it to the board. Asterisk. His face flushed deep red. Margaret Chen had heard enough. Carson, wait outside, please. After he left, she turned to me. What exactly do you want, Dr. Patel? Recognition for my work, I replied simply, and to ensure this doesn't happen to other developers. And Phoenix Interactive is built on different architecture than what I developed for Nexus. I've been very careful about that. I'm happy to have it independently verified. A long discussion followed involving technical details, legal considerations, and practical business realities. By the time we emerged 3 hours later, we had reached an agreement that would change everything. The next morning, the gaming industry woke to a shocking press release. Many ex-US damies ANNONCs LED Euroshapi changes and NUDU direction. Dr. Maya Patel appointed Chief Technology Officer and Creative Director of AI Development. Carson Wright no longer with the company. Partnership announced with Phoenix Interactive to develop next-generation gaming AI. The final day of the conference featured a new presentation on Eternal Horizon, this time with me at the podium, explaining the actual technical innovations behind the game's AI systems. I answered questions with precise technical detail, demonstrating a command of the subject that made the previous presentation look like a bad parody. When asked about Phoenix Interactive, I explained that my independent research would now be integrated with Nexus Games development in a formal partnership arrangement that properly credited the original work. The most exciting innovations happen when developers are empowered to pursue their vision without fear of having their contributions erased. I told the packed auditorium. Nexus Games is committed to becoming that kind of company. 6 months later, Eternal Horizon launched to critical acclaim, praised particularly for its revolutionary AI systems that created the most believable and emotionally responsive NPCs ever seen in gaming. My name featured prominently in reviews, interviews, and industry analysis. Carson Wright had disappeared from the gaming industry entirely. Last I heard, he was trying to rebrand himself as an ad consultant in another field, presumably one where the technical people were less likely to document everything. As I walked through the Nexus Games office, now restructured with a significantly more diverse leadership team, I passed a wall displaying our core values, recently revised after the convention incident. At the top of the list, credit where credit is due. In my new corner office, with its view of the Seattle skyline, I kept a small framed snippet of code on my wall. The first algorithm I'd written for what would become Eternal Horizon's emotional mapping system. Below it was a quote I'd added. Your work speaks for itself, but sometimes it needs your voice too. The gaming industry had learned an important lesson. Technical brilliance doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly in the back of the room, documenting everything, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. And as I mentored younger developers, particularly women and minorities who often found their contributions minimized or appropriated, I made sure they understood. Sometimes the most powerful code you write isn't what goes into the game. It's the undeniable record of your own brilliance that no one can erase or claim as their own. Because in development, as in life, the most important thing isn't just creating something revolutionary. It's ensuring that the true source code of innovation is recognized and preserved.
What are you doing there? I hesitantly called out to a young girl rummaging through a trash behind the spa. She flinched and froze.
I'm sorry.
She kept apologizing, her hair a tangled mess, her clothes worn out, and her shoes falling apart. And yet, here she was, digging through someone else's trash. It was clear something was wrong at her home. She probably hadn't bathed in a while either. She looks like she's in elementary school. I saw my late daughter, Olivia, in her, and I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. We run a spa. Want to come inside? I brought her in and gently washed her hair and body. The girl looked completely transformed, so I asked for her name.
I'm Olivia.
Hearing her say the same name as my late daughter, I knew this meeting wasn't just a coincidence. Where's your mom?
She's been in bed the whole time. She says her foot hurts too much to move.
Has she gone to the doctor?
No. She says we shouldn't be a burden to others.
What? Robert and I exchanged glances. The phrase not being a burden to others kept coming up in Olivia's words, and it started to bother me. Olivia, do you think we could meet your mom?
But Mom doesn't want to be a burden.
Olivia lowered her gaze. This isn't a burden at all. I'm just worried about your mom's injury and want to check on her. Is that okay?
Okay.
We walked with Olivia to her home. She lived in an old apartment on the second floor behind a supermarket.
Mom, I brought Robert and Kate from the spa.
From inside the silent room, a faint voice responded.
Please, wait a moment.
When the woman finally appeared, I gasped in shock. My name is Kate. I run a spa with my husband, Robert. Our spa was originally started by Robert's grandfather, and Robert is now the third generation running it. People of all ages come to our spa, and it has become a beloved gathering spot in the neighborhood. An elderly woman arrived, holding the hand of a little girl.
This is my granddaughter. She's staying with me tonight.
Oh, that's wonderful. Take your time and relax in our spacious spa. The little girl, half hidden behind her grandmother, nodded slightly and smiled at me. Right behind them, a lively group of high school boys burst in.
Hey, Kate.
Hey there. Have fun today. They looked like they were having a blast. The boundless energy of youth is dazzling. A little while later, a woman in a business suit walked in.
Well, this is my first time here. Where do I buy a ticket?
Welcome. You can buy your ticket over here, and the pool is that way. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
She mentioned that she was staying at a nearby business hotel for a work trip. The hotel staff had recommended our spa to her, which made me happy. I gave her a warm, welcoming smile. However, the moment I saw the woman's ponytail swaying as she walked away, my chest tightened. Olivia. Tears welled up, and I hurriedly turned away. Almost immediately, Robert rushed over to me.
Kate, are you okay?
Hearing his voice, I felt a little calmer. Thank you. She reminded me of Olivia.
Oh, yeah.
Robert glanced at the woman's retreating figure and nodded wistfully. Our late daughter, Olivia, loved having her long, silky hair tied up in a ponytail. If Olivia were still alive, she'd probably be wearing a suit like that, working hard in her career. You know, just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I thought back to our earlier customers. My mom always looked forward to having Olivia stay over at her place.
Yeah.
If she had made it to high school, she would have been busy with clubs, hanging out with friends, enjoying her bright and lively days, right?
That's right.
If only I had given birth to her stronger. I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears streamed down my cheeks.
Kate, Olivia is watching us from heaven. She always said, I love seeing Mom smile, remember?
Robert gently rubbed my back.
Go take a little break. Oh, by the way, a customer gave us some sweets earlier. Maybe that'll help cheer you up.
Oh, thanks. I let myself lean into his kindness and headed to the break room. Up until 19 years ago, I lived in an apartment near this spa with my husband, Robert, and our daughter, Olivia. Olivia, our little mascot, was adored by everyone. She loved folding towels and would help clean up after closing, making my work even more enjoyable.
Olivia, you're such a great helper.
Yup. Take your time and relax.
She was cherished by the people in our community and grew up happy and full of energy. But then, illness struck her. When Olivia was 7, doctors found a tumor in her head, and she spent the next few years in and out of the hospital.
Mom, when I get better, will you do my ponytail again?
Even after losing her signature long hair to treatment, she stayed positive, always putting on a brave face. So I encouraged myself to stay strong and decided to always smile in front of Olivia. Of course, we'll even add cute accessories and make you look extra stylish. But that wish never came true, and Olivia passed away just before her 10th birthday. As parents, we couldn't do anything. The pain of remembering Olivia was unbearable, so Robert and I moved away, as if running from the home we once shared with her. At that time, we had even planned to close the spa. But after losing Olivia and falling into deep despair, the people in our community who visited the spa helped us get through it. Some would silently bring us sweets, while the elderly man 2 doors down would drop off fresh vegetables from his garden. The woman who ran the bookstore kept recommending novels she thought it'd enjoy, and Olivia's friends would often stop by with her favorite chocolate, just to check in on us. Thanks to them, little by little, we started moving forward. Over time, we regained our daily routine, but even after 19 years, there are still moments like this when memories of Olivia bring me to tears. These sweets are really good. And every time, I'm reminded of the kindness around me, which gives me the strength to keep going.
Another day wrapped up. Good job today.
All right, let's clean up. One evening, after closing, as we were tidying up, I heard a noise behind the building. Oh, maybe a cat rummaging through the trash. Wait, what? I stepped outside to check, and my heart nearly stopped. Instead of a cat, there was a young girl standing there. She was searching for something in our trash area, and I hesitantly spoke to her. "What are you doing there?" She flinched and froze.
I'm sorry.
She kept apologizing without even looking at me. A child this young, rummaging through trash alone at this hour. Something isn't right. Gently, I tried to reassure her. "I didn't mean to startle you. Look at me, sweetheart. I run this spa. My name's Kate." Slowly, she turned toward me. Her hair was a tangled mess. Her clothes were loose and worn, and her shoes were falling apart. And here she was, digging through someone's trash. It was obvious something was wrong at her home. She probably hadn't bathed in a while either. She looks about the age Olivia was back then. The thought hit me hard, and I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. Have you ever been to a spa before?
No, I haven't.
There's a big pool too, and it feels amazing. Want to try it?
Wait. I can. But I don't have any money.
Seeing the sadness in her expression, I gently rubbed her back. "You don't need to worry about money. We're already closed for the day, so you're free to use it." With that, I led her inside the spa. Robert looked surprised when he saw us, and I exchanged a glance with him. "I'm just going to let her experience the spa for a bit."
Got it. Oh, I'm Robert. Take your time and relax. Oh, wait. I think Mom kept some of Olivia's clothes.
Robert quickly picked up on the situation and went to find something that might fit her. His parents used to live in the house behind the spa, and while we worked, they often played with Olivia. Because of that, we had left some of Olivia's clothes at Robert's childhood home. Robert, look. When we cleaned out his parents' house after they passed away, I found Olivia's little clothes neatly folded and stored in a case.
Mom really held onto them carefully.
It had been too painful for me to think about Olivia. I had stubbornly tried to move forward and ended up throwing away all of her clothes. So when I found these, I cried with happiness and felt deeply grateful to Robert's mother. I never thought we'd use Olivia's clothes again. It felt strange, but at the same time, my heart felt lighter.
Wow! It's huge.
The girl's eyes sparkled with excitement at the size of the spa. Seeing her so happy made me smile too. I'll take care of the cleanup, so go ahead and enjoy the pool. As I tidied up, I kept glancing over at her. She was kicking her legs and happily splashing around. She's adorable. Seeing this playful, childlike side of her made me feel relieved. After she finished, I dried her off and was about to help with her hair when Robert rushed in, slightly out of breath, holding some clothes.
Glad I made it in time.
He handed me the clothes and quickly stepped out of the changing room. Along with Olivia's clothes, there was also a full set of underwear. He must have rushed out to buy them. Maybe he had been thinking about Olivia too. A warm feeling spread through my chest.
Can I really wear this?
Of course. It belonged to my daughter, so it's a little old. Oh, but it looks perfect on you. The red dress that used to be Olivia's fit her just right, and she looked absolutely adorable in it. When we stepped out of the changing room, Robert, who had been waiting, widened his eyes for a moment when he saw her.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes. Robert and Kate, thank you so much.
With her freshly washed, silky hair and bright, carefree smile, she looked even more charming. By the way, could you tell us your name?
Olivia. I'm 9 years old.
What? I exchanged a stunned glance with Robert.
Your name is Olivia?
Yeah,
I can't believe it. The girl we happen to help is named Olivia. At that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a coincidence.
Do you like pancakes?
Robert must have realized that she had been searching the trash for something to eat. He crouched down in front of her, looking at her kindly as he asked.
well, yes.
Great. I'll make some for you. Just wait here.
Robert quickly whipped up pancakes for the three of us in the break room. They were the same pancakes Olivia used to love. Since Olivia passed away, I hadn't eaten Robert's pancakes much, so seeing them in front of me made my heart race a little.
Our daughter gave these her seal of approval. Go ahead, dig in.
Olivia hesitated at first, but when her stomach growled, she couldn't resist and started eating.
Wow. It's so good. Really, really good.
She ate faster and faster. It's okay to take your time, and if you're still hungry, you can have some of mine too. She must have been really hungry because she finished my portion too. Once she was full, Olivia smiled shyly but happily. When I looked up, the clock read 9:30 p.m. It's getting late. Your family must be worried, so let's call them. Can you tell me your home phone number? But Olivia just tilted her head. She explained that they didn't have a home phone, and she didn't know her mom's cell phone number either. Is your house nearby?
I don't know.
Olivia's face suddenly filled with worry. After asking more questions, I learned that her mother had been sick in bed and had sent her out on an errand, but Olivia had gotten lost. Exhausted from walking and starving, she had started rummaging through the trash for food when I found her. That being said, it was quite a big errand for a 9-year-old, and the distance she could have walked on her own was likely limited.
Do you remember any landmarks near your house?
Well, there's a supermarket next to a camera store. I live behind the supermarket.
Oh, I know that place. We managed to figure out the supermarket near Olivia's home. It was about a 20-minute walk from the spa. When we walked Olivia to that area, she recognized the familiar surroundings and looked relieved.
Robert, Kate, thank you so much. Here, take this.
What is this? She held out a dollar bill.
For the spa.
Oh no, you don't need to. We just wanted to help.
But I have to. Mom always says we shouldn't be a burden to others.
I tried to refuse, but Olivia shook her head firmly, insisting, "All right then, I'll accept it, but in return, promise you'll come visit again anytime."
Really? Can I come tomorrow?
Of course. Just make sure you tell your family first, okay?
Okay.
As her eyes sparkled with joy, I gently patted her head, and then Olivia ran off toward her home. Her figure as she ran away reminded me so much of my late daughter, Olivia, that I couldn't hold back my tears.
That dress looked great on her.
Yeah, she's such a sweet, adorable girl. I hope I can be there for her if she ever needs help. Deep down, I wish she would come back to see us again. The next day, Olivia really did come back to our spa.
I remembered the way this time.
Seeing her innocent smile made me happy.
Mom said, "Thank you so much for yesterday." I told her before coming today. She also told me to help out as a way to say thanks.
According to Olivia, her mother had injured her foot 2 days ago and wasn't able to leave the house.
I want to help. I help my mom at home too, so I can do anything.
Then how about vacuuming for me?
Okay.
She must have really been used to helping out at home. Olivia vacuumed, folded towels, and tidied up with practiced ease.
Thank you. It's already evening, so why don't you play in the pool for a bit? And for dinner, would you like pancakes again?
Yes. I love Robert's pancakes.
Her bright, carefree smile warmed our hearts. After she finished eating, we made sure to take her home while it was still light out.
Thank you so much.
She then held out a dollar bill again. Thank you. I'd love it if you came back again tomorrow if you can. Wanting her to feel comfortable coming back, I accepted the dollar. This is for your mom. Before saying goodbye, I handed Olivia a sandwich I had made for her mother, who couldn't go out. She thanked us over and over before running off toward her home. The next day, and the day after that, Olivia came back. With your help, we're getting so much done. Thank you.
Really? I want to help even more.
Seeing her work so hard reminded both Robert and me of our daughter, Olivia, and we watched her with tears in our eyes. How is your mom's foot doing? As we ate, I asked about her mother's condition.
She's been in bed the whole time. She says her foot hurts too much to move.
Has she gone to the doctor?
No. She says we shouldn't be a burden to others.
What? Robert and I exchanged glances. The phrase not being a burden to others kept coming up in Olivia's words, and it started to bother me. Has your mom been eating properly?
Yeah. She said the sandwiches you gave me were so good they made her cry.
Is that all she's been eating? I exchanged a glance with Robert, and he gave a firm nod. Since the spa was closed that day, we decided to visit Olivia's home and check on her mother. Olivia, do you think we could meet your mom?
But Mom doesn't want to be a burden.
Olivia lowered her gaze. This isn't a burden. We're just worried about her injury and want to check on her. You don't think helping your mom is a burden, right? It's the same thing.
Okay.
Together, we walked to Olivia's home. She lived in an old apartment on the second floor behind the supermarket.
Mom, I brought Robert and Kate from the spa.
From inside the quiet room, a faint voice responded.
Please, wait a moment.
After a while, a woman crawled out of the room, and I hurriedly stepped inside to help her.
I'm so sorry for the trouble. I'm Olivia's mother, Chloe.
Oh my, what happened to your foot? I was at a loss for words when I saw her leg, swollen and badly bruised.
I slipped on the apartment stairs the other day. I somehow managed to get back to my room, but since then, I haven't been able to move.
It's probably broken. Chloe, have you been to the hospital?
She silently shook her head, and Robert quickly called an ambulance. You can't just leave such a serious injury untreated. I spoke more firmly than I intended.
But if I get admitted, Olivia will be all alone.
As we talked, I learned that Chloe and Olivia lived alone. Her husband never held a steady job and wandered from place to place. Without her knowing, he accumulated debt, stopped coming home, and eventually they divorced 5 years ago. Since then, Chloe has been working as a cleaner while raising Olivia on her own. Additionally, Chloe's parents had already passed away, leaving her with no one to rely on. I could feel how deeply she cared for her daughter, and I couldn't bring myself to push any further. Just then, the paramedics arrived. We'll head to the hospital too.
I'm so sorry for causing trouble.
This isn't trouble at all. We're just worried about you and Olivia. Chloe kept apologizing, looking so pitiful that it broke my heart. After the doctors examined her, they confirmed she needed to be hospitalized for about 2 months. Chloe, we'll take care of Olivia, so please focus on getting better. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes.
Thank you. I can't believe you're doing so much for us when we're complete strangers.
Maybe we were strangers, but Robert and I didn't feel that way at all. From that day on, we took care of Olivia and visited Chloe in the hospital every day. As I spent more time talking to Chloe, I finally understood the strange feeling I had toward her and her daughter.
Actually, I was born with a heart condition. I was lucky enough to receive a heart transplant 19 years ago, which is why I'm alive today.
19 years ago. My heart pounded loudly. You don't know who the donor was, do you?
No, but I was told it was a girl around my age. I was 11 at the time.
A girl around 11 years old. Could it be? I turned to Robert, and he looked back at me, eyes wide with shock. Because 19 years ago, our daughter Olivia, who passed away at 9 years old, had chosen to become a donor.
Aside from my head, my body is still healthy, right?
One day, 19 years ago, Olivia told us she wanted to be an organ donor. Olivia, what are you talking about? You're going to keep living. At the time, we already knew she didn't have much time left, but we had never told her. So hearing her say that shook both of us to our core.
Did someone tell you about this?
No, but I read in a picture book that if you become a donor, you can keep living inside other people's bodies.
She must have also heard stories about kids waiting for heart transplants in the pediatric ward during her hospital stays. Even though she was only 9, the idea of organ donation was something she understood more intimately and realistically than we did.
I've been helped by so many people, so in the end, I want to help someone too.
We had been avoiding reality, clinging only to the hope of a miracle. But when Olivia said those words, we couldn't hold back our tears.
All right, Olivia, you're such a kind girl. We're so proud to have you as our daughter.
Unlike us, who went home and cried every night, Olivia always looked forward. From the day we learned about her feelings, we stopped crying. We need to be strong and kind. Just like Olivia, we need to live each day to the fullest, so she can look back and say she was happy until the very end. For the next 3 months, we shared the most meaningful time together. We picked up litter while out on walks, donated Olivia's favorite books to the hospital, and found comfort in imagining how happy those small actions might make others. Then, the day of our farewell came. Olivia, you did so well. You gave us so much happiness, and we learned so much from you. Thank you.
I'll become strong and kind, just like you. So please watch over us from above.
After Olivia was declared brain dead, her organs were donated, just as she had wished. We were never told where they went or to whom. But organ transplants do not happen often, and the key details of 19 years ago and a girl around 11 years old were enough for me to be certain that the donor was Olivia.
Before I received my heart transplant, so many people helped me. Since I was given a strong heart like this, I can't let myself be a burden to anyone anymore.
I see. That's why she kept saying, not being a burden to others. I could understand how Chloe felt. But one thing was certain. This was never what Olivia had wanted. What does being a burden even mean? I asked Chloe.
Well, relying on others, asking for help.
That's not being a burden at all. Both Chloe and Olivia looked at me in surprise. When someone relies on you, it actually makes you happy. And when you show kindness to others, it fills your own heart with joy. That's something our daughter taught us.
Oh, she is the one who loved Robert's pancakes, right?
Robert nodded firmly and gave Olivia a warm smile. So try leaning on others more. The world is filled with more kindness than you think. Tears streamed down Chloe's face. The next day, her expression was noticeably brighter.
Thank you for the clothes.
Hearing her say thank you instead of I'm sorry, as she usually did, reassured both Robert and me.
Chloe, you don't have to answer right away, but I want you to think about something.
With that, Robert introduced an idea to her. She was so surprised that she couldn't even speak. Take your time thinking about it. Just know that you're always welcome here. Even though we told her to take her time, I couldn't help but wait anxiously for her response. So when she finally gave us a good answer, I was so happy, I nearly jumped for joy. I felt as if Olivia was smiling down on us from above, happy as well. 3 months later.
Excuse me for intruding.
You're not intruding. From today on, This is your home.
Chloe and Olivia moved into the house behind the spa, where Robert's parents used to live. Actually, we had been struggling for a long time with what to do with their vacant house. At this point, moving there ourselves felt like too much trouble, and we had been hoping someone else would live in it. That's when Chloe and Olivia came into our lives.
Would you like to work at our spa? It would be even better if you lived in the house behind it.
Chloe tearfully agreed to Robert's suggestion while she was still in the hospital.
Robert and Kate, thank you. I'm looking forward to this new beginning.
We're too. It'll be so nice to have more people around. With Chloe and Olivia now part of our lives, our spa was about to start a brand new chapter. 6 months had passed since then. Chloe quickly picked up the job and worked with great care, soon becoming an irreplaceable part of our spa. Customers adored her, and it was heartwarming to see them often giving her fresh vegetables or sweets as gifts. Olivia, who had been helping out every day, had now become the face of our spa. I felt a little guilty that moving here meant she had to transfer schools. But she made friends quickly at her new school and happily shared stories about her day with us. Seeing them laugh and enjoy life brought happiness to Robert and me.
You haven't cried lately.
Robert gently patted my shoulder. That's because I can feel Olivia so close to me.
Yeah, you're right.
We exchanged a smile. I couldn't help but believe that our meeting with Chloe and Olivia was something our daughter had arranged for us. Maybe from above, Olivia had guided us to help them. I wonder if she's happy seeing them like this. Are we becoming as strong and kind as she was?
I got some sweets from a customer.
Olivia ran over, holding the treats she had received. Before, we used to get 2. One for Robert and one for me. But this time, there were 5. Olivia, Chloe, Robert, me. And I'm sure the last one is for our Olivia. Feeling the warmth of kindness, my heart was full. This world is filled with kindness. For 25 years, I had managed to raise my stepdaughter with twists and turns, and then I got a call that she had given birth. Feeling overjoyed, I excitedly went out to buy a gift to celebrate. My husband Robert drove me to my daughter Emily's apartment the next day. We took the elevator up, and when we reached her door, I noticed a strange sign hanging outside.
No outsiders allowed.
Well, it's their home, so that makes sense. But was there some other meaning behind it? Tilting my head in confusion, I rang the doorbell. Emily quickly appeared from inside and shut the door behind her.
Oh, old hag, you actually came.
What? I glanced over at Robert, who had an awkward smirk on his face. What's going on?
Can't you see? It says, no outsiders allowed. You're not related by blood, so you're not family. That means you can't come in.
I desperately tried to process what was happening, but my mind was blank. Then, what about everything up until now? I thought you had accepted me.
It was all an act. You see, Luke is the kind of person who values family. So if he saw what a mess our home really was, he would have been completely disillusioned.
I had certainly been strict while raising her, but it was all for Emily's sake. If she saw it as a mess, then she was completely mistaken. Most of the chaos in that home had been caused by Robert's behavior. I had been completely denied.
Well, that's just how it is.
Robert gave me that same cold, unsettling smile as he opened the front door and walked inside.
Oh, by the way, I'll be living here from now on, so go ahead and bring my stuff over.
Where did I go wrong? What had I done? Something inside me, something I had been holding onto for so many years, finally snapped. I see, that's enough. It was my high school reunion. I had left my corporate job and started working as a freelancer. At the reunion, I fully soaked in the mix of nostalgia and fresh new energy in the air.
It's been a while, Amanda.
Suddenly, someone called out to me. When I turned around, I saw Robert, the most popular guy from our high school days. Robert, you haven't changed at all.
You haven't either, Amanda.
With his striking looks, he was the heartthrob of our class, admired by every girl. And of course, I had been one of them. The feelings I had long buried suddenly resurfaced, blooming like a flower.
Hey, how about we slip away from here and grab a drink, just the two of us?
To my surprise, he made the first move. I had no reason to refuse. Of course, I'd love to. I answered without hesitation. Back in high school, Robert had been incredibly popular, but for some reason, he was single now. And he was the one who said, "I want to be with you," before I even had the chance to ask. If you had waited a little longer, I was planning to say it first.
Oh, really? That's good to know.
And just like that, I finally fulfilled a love that had lasted for 10 years. But then, Robert revealed an unexpected truth.
Actually, I'm divorced and I have a kid.
What? That was definitely something I would have preferred to know up front. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing thoughts and make sense of the situation.
It's a little girl. Her name is Emily, and she's 5 years old.
A wave of complex emotions washed over me, but somewhere in my heart, I found myself thinking, if she's Robert's child, then maybe it's okay. Let me meet her sometime.
Of course. When are you free? I'll bring her along.
I'm a freelancer, so I can adjust to your schedule.
Thanks. How about this Saturday?
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice to meet you. I'm Emily.
Hi. Nice to meet you too. I'm Amanda. Emily was a bit on the energetic side, but overall, she was a polite and well-mannered child. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of Robert's dedication as a single father. As I spent more time with Robert and his daughter, he suddenly made an unexpected proposal.
Amanda, if you're okay with it, will you marry me?
I was completely caught off guard. It was a tempting offer. But there was one thing that I just couldn't shake, and that was Emily's presence. Would I be able to love her as my own? That was my only concern. But deep down, I had always wanted children. And Emily was such a wonderful child. After a brief pause, I resolved my inner conflict. Yes, I will. Sometime after we got married, Robert suddenly dropped a shocking announcement.
I quit my job.
What? Why? I was so taken aback that I couldn't help but blurt out exactly what I was thinking.
It was exhausting.
What about your next job? I was still working, and we had some savings left, so we might be able to manage for a while. But there was a limit to how long that could last.
Don't worry, I'll find something soon.
I couldn't blindly trust him and take his words at face value, but since he said so, I decided to wait for a little while. However, he kept switching jobs, starting and quitting over and over, never finding any real stability. As time went on, even when he was unemployed, he gradually stopped helping out with housework or childcare. I was deeply worried about Robert and tried countless times to support him, but the real problem was that Robert himself refused to face it. Little by little, Robert stopped coming home, and at his worst, he would only be home 1 day a week. He wouldn't even tell me where he was or what he was doing. On the rare occasions when Robert was home, he would sometimes erupt in anger, but I couldn't bring myself to firmly stand up to him. Still, I had to take care of Emily. I forced myself to stay strong, balancing both my job to support our household and raising her. I didn't want Emily to end up like Robert, so I was a bit strict with her. At the same time, I tried to shield her from the truth, always telling her, "Your dad is just really busy with work." But despite my wishes, Emily grew much more attached to the kind father who occasionally came home, rather than the strict stepmother who was always there. Maybe it was only natural, but I started to doubt whether what I was doing was truly right. The strained atmosphere in our home continued for nearly 20 years, and before I knew it, Emily had become a college student. The atmosphere at home was nothing short of unbearable. Emily and I had moved past mere arguments. We barely even looked at each other, let alone had a proper conversation. Amid all this, I had felt the effects of a sedentary job for a while, realizing I was getting out of shape. More than that, I desperately needed an escape from the suffocating environment at home. I decided to start attending a running school as my new hobby. There, I met a woman named Julie, who was around my age, and we immediately hit it off. Before long, we had naturally become friends.
I've been through a lot in the past, too.
As I listened, I realized she had her own share of struggles. In a way, it felt like our lives had followed similar paths, intertwining in unexpected ways.
Feel free to vent or talk to me anytime. I'm sure I can help in some way.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Julie was incredibly supportive and always stood by my side. It seemed like, in seeing my current situation, she had her own thoughts about it as well. As time passed, Julie became an irreplaceable friend to me. The moment I seemed even slightly different from usual, Julie was the first to notice and would immediately step in to help me let off steam. Eventually, Emily graduated from college, and with that, she decided to move out. While a part of me felt a sense of loneliness, I also found myself somewhat relieved. At least she could finally escape this stifling environment. Not long after Emily left, Robert, who had only been coming home once or twice a week, suddenly started spending all his time at home. I immediately turned to Julie for advice. "So that's what's happening. What do you think I should do?"
Well, unless there's something physically or mentally wrong, he really should be working. Of course, if he's genuinely unwell, then taking time to rest properly is important too.
I honestly have no idea what's going on in his head anymore. I don't even know if something's wrong with him or not.
In that case, you might as well ask him outright, even if it's a long shot.
Taking Julie's advice, I decided to talk to Robert. "Robert, do you have a moment?
What?
What's going on with your job? Things are getting really tough, you know." But Robert refused to listen. No matter what I said, no matter how I asked, it was like talking to a brick wall. He just kept dodging my questions, giving vague and half-hearted responses, leaving me with no way to get through to him. In the end, I gave up on talking to him altogether, and our days of silence stretched on even further. A few years later, I got a call from Emily. "Emily, what's up? How have you been?"
Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something, and I'd like to bring my boyfriend over.
"Wait, does that mean?"
Yeah, I'm planning to get married.
On another day, Emily brought her boyfriend over to our house. Even Robert, wanting to make a good impression for once, had put some effort into dressing up and was nervously fidgeting as he waited.
Let me introduce you. This is Luke.
Nice to meet you. I'm Luke Carson. I met Emily at work.
Believe it or not, he's actually my boss.
It seemed like they had met through an office romance. His demeanor was gentle and composed, and it was clear that he genuinely loved Emily. That aside, Emily appeared more composed than ever before. She interacted calmly with both Robert and me, showing a level of maturity I hadn't seen before. Seeing her like that, I realized that Emily had truly grown up. At the same time, I deeply felt, oh, she's finally accepted me. The realization hit me so hard that I almost burst into tears. All this time, I had only wanted her to grow into a strong, independent adult, but I often wondered if I had been too strict. But in the end, it all paid off in the right way. Thinking what I did wasn't wrong after all, I let out a deep sigh of relief from the bottom of my heart. A few years after Emily's wedding, life at home remained unchanged. Robert still showed no intention of working. As I seriously worried about our future, I suddenly received a call from Emily. Calls like this usually meant something big had happened. Hello?
Hi, Mom. Big news. The baby is here.
Really? Such incredible news. I couldn't help but raise my voice in excitement.
It's true. That's why I'd love for you to come see my baby. When would be a good time?
I never imagined the day would come when I would have a grandchild. The thought of becoming a grandmother had never even crossed my mind. I never imagined this day would come, but it filled me with deep emotion. I wanted nothing more than to rush over and see my grandchild right away, but unfortunately, I was tied up at the moment. How about tomorrow? I'd love to come today, but I'm swamped with work right now.
Tomorrow? Got it. I'll be ready and waiting.
Of course, the birth of my grandchild was wonderful news, but even more than that, I was overjoyed that my once distant stepdaughter had finally opened her heart to me. This phone call felt like the moment we had finally become a real mother and daughter. I did wish she had told me before the baby was born, but thinking of it as a surprise, it felt rather sweet. Now that everything was set, I needed to hurry and finish my work to be ready for tomorrow. Suddenly, I felt a surge of motivation. That's right, I should share this news with Julie too. I left a message for Julie, telling her that I had become a grandmother, and then turned my attention back to work. The next day, I dressed up nicely and brought the gift I had managed to gather at the last minute.
Are you ready?
He had changed a lot since we last saw each other. He used to be such a handsome man, it was a shame. I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
For some reason today, I felt even calmer than usual, almost as if I were completely composed. There was a clarity to it, almost as if we had returned to the past. Though I couldn't quite understand the reason behind it, it was a bit eerie, but I was grateful that he was behaving normally. At worst, I had even worried that when I woke up this morning, he would be stumbling out the door as usual, off to who knows where. With Robert driving, we arrived at Emily's apartment. We took the elevator up, and when we reached her door, I noticed a strange sign hanging outside.
No outsiders allowed.
Well, it's their home, so that makes sense. I tilted my head, wondering if there was some other intention behind the sign, and rang the doorbell. Soon, Emily appeared from inside and quickly shut the door behind her.
Oh, old hag, you actually came.
What? I glanced over at Robert, who had a creepy, smirking look on his face. What's going on?
Can't you see? It says, no outsiders allowed. You're not family since you're not related by blood, so you can't come in.
I desperately tried to think, but nothing came to mind. Then, what about everything we've been through? Didn't you accept me?
It was all an act. You see, Luke values family, and if he saw what a mess our home was, he would have been completely disillusioned.
I had certainly been strict while raising her. But all of that was for Emily's sake. If she called it a mess, that was a complete misunderstanding. Most of the chaos had been caused by Robert's behavior. I had been completely denied.
Well, that's how it is.
With a cold smile, Robert opened the door and went inside.
Oh, by the way, I'll be living here from now on, so go ahead and bring my stuff.
Where did everything go wrong? What had I done? Inside, something that had been tightly wound for so long snapped. I see. That's enough. With those words, I left the scene alone. However, I had no intention of backing down. Hello? Is it possible to talk now? A few days after the shocking event, I called Emily. Emily, come to the cafe nearby with Robert, right now.
Why? Is there a reason I have to go?
Just come. I said no more and hung up the phone. When I arrived at the cafe I had specified, it wasn't long before Emily and Robert showed up. Both of them wore puzzled expressions, perhaps unsure of what was going to happen.
So, where's the stuff?
Stuff? Oh, I didn't bring anything. But here, take this. Instead of handing over a bag or anything like that, I presented a divorce paper. As soon as Robert saw it, his face went pale. On the other hand, Emily started laughing and turned to Robert.
How is it that you're getting a divorce, even though you only do side jobs? Are you out of your mind? You should be glad you're getting divorced.
Side jobs? What's that?
No.
What do you mean, what? You're not even doing a proper job, are you?
Robert visibly started to panic.
Wait a minute.
Emily, what did he tell you?
Dad said he's working a normal job. I heard Mom's job was just for pocket money.
It's all a lie.
What do you mean? But you always said Dad was busy with work.
Back then, I didn't want to hurt you, so I told you Dad's working. That was a lie. I'm sorry.
So, what's the truth then?
Most likely, he used that as an excuse to say, I'm the one supporting the family, right? At this point, it was just speculation, but if that were the case, it made sense that Emily would side with Robert.
Are you asking me to believe this now? There's no way. Forget it. Dad, let's go home.
Emily said this as she tugged at Robert's sleeve, trying to leave while he remained silent.
Wait, Emily.
As I spoke, a woman appeared from the seat next to us and sat down at our table. When Robert saw her, his eyes widened in shock.
Julie, what are you doing here?
It's been a while, Robert.
This is impossible.
I knew you wouldn't believe my side of the story alone, so I called her. Emily, this is your birth mother.
What we're about to say is all the truth. Listen carefully.
And I began to reveal the truth. Robert isn't working at all. I don't even know what he was doing when he wasn't at home. The reason I told you he was working was all a lie, just to protect you.
Why?
I didn't want you to turn out like Robert, so I raised you harshly on purpose. But it all backfired, and you became attached to him. Robert used that to his advantage.
So, who is this person? Is she really my mother?
Yes, I'm sorry I couldn't come see you before.
Julie apologized to her. Julie was Robert's classmate from university, and they had been in a relationship since then. The two of them later became working adults, got married, and were blessed with Emily. However, even back then, Robert had been jumping from job to job. On top of that, he had started playing around with other women, and Julie and Robert were constantly in heated arguments. There were times when Robert even became physically abusive. Under such circumstances, Julie became mentally exhausted. One day, emotionally drained, Julie ended up raising her hand against Emily, who was crying uncontrollably. That moment triggered a deep sense of guilt within Julie, leading her to suffer a mental breakdown and eventually be isolated. During this time, Robert, who had just secured a job, gained custody of Emily and filed for divorce. Domestic violence and infidelity were skillfully concealed, using Julie's lack of the ability to testify as an excuse. Apparently, Robert, eager for the benefits of being a single parent, was pleased to have gained custody. After some time, as Julie gradually recovered, she managed to suppress her desire to see Emily and the lingering resentment toward Robert, slowly returning to her daily life. Time passed, and now, Julie happened to meet me by chance at a running school. As she listened to my story, Julie realized that my husband was Robert, and she eventually confided in me, revealing everything about the past. The feelings she had suppressed for so long, the desire to see Emily, and her inability to ignore someone in a similar situation to hers, all came rushing to the surface.
Is it true?
With tears in her eyes, Emily confronted Robert. Robert said nothing, merely looking down in silence. It was as if he was silently acknowledging everything without saying a word.
Both Amanda and I've been through the same thing. You're his next target, Emily. That's why I came to persuade you.
I'm sorry, but it's all true. I've also been a victim of violence.
So, the reason you were always so strict was?
Yes, everything was for your sake. I've regretted many times that I might have been too strict, but if even a little of that reached you, then it will have been worth it. It seemed that Emily had finally woken up from the deception. As Emily sobbed uncontrollably, Robert, sitting beside her, still didn't say a word, keeping his head down. He looked as though he were in despair over what had happened, but in the end, it was all his own doing. When I thought that the long-awaited punishment for his years of infidelity had finally arrived, it was a relief. Emily reportedly kicked Robert out soon after. Now that he had been presented with divorce papers by me and was also thrown out of the house by Emily, I wondered where Robert would end up. He was already over 50, so I couldn't imagine him being able to find stable, full-time work at this point. However, all of this was simply the result of his own actions. Wherever Robert ended up from now on, it was no longer my concern. A few days after that day's events, Emily came to see me alone. As soon as she arrived, Emily apologized to me.
I'm really sorry for everything.
I had never seen her so sincere outside of the act she put on back then, so I was honestly a little surprised.
I won't make excuses saying I was deceived. I don't expect you to forgive me so easily. I just couldn't help but do this.
That's right. Emily had always been a polite and well-mannered good child. She said she wouldn't make excuses, but in reality, Emily was also a victim in all of this. Certainly, I was shocked by what happened the other day, but the one truly at fault was Robert, the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. So, instead of blaming her, there was no reason not to offer comfort. Emily, let's talk inside.
After I kicked Dad out of my house, I told Luke everything that happened that day. And then he got incredibly angry at me.
Luke told her, a person who can't cherish their family could never cherish their own child, and she was scolded quite severely. From my perspective, Robert was the root of all the problems, but objectively speaking, Luke's point wasn't wrong.
Of course, I was already planning to do that, but Luke also told me, go apologize. So that's why I came to apologize.
From Emily's demeanor, it was clear that she was genuinely reflecting on her actions. Having raised her for over 20 years with strict principles, her sense of ethics should be solid. I knew that better than anyone.
I really regret it. Looking back now, I can see that you were strict with me because you truly cared about me. But that person, he was just kind, but he never really did anything for me. When I was a child, I didn't understand, but now I see it clearly. I was wrong.
I can tell that you truly feel that way. So, you don't need to apologize anymore. Yes, I was shocked that day, but I never intended to blame you in the first place.
Will you forgive me?
I told you. I'm not going to blame you. Robert is another story, though.
Thank you.
As she said this, tears welled up in her eyes.
Hey, I have a request. I want to see Julie, my real mom. One more time.
That afternoon, Emily and I waited for Julie at the cafe we had visited a few days earlier. In the meantime, Emily seemed to be nervous, fidgeting the whole time. Last time, she appeared suddenly and immediately began revealing shocking truths, so there was no time for nervousness. But this time, it was different. It's easy to imagine that anyone would feel nervous knowing that their long-lost biological mother would be coming to see them. Soon, from the entrance of the cafe, a familiar figure to me began walking toward us.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
No, not at all. I'm sorry for calling you out of the blue. Emily fidgeted, and with the hesitation of a young child, she nervously said, "Hello." Then we talked about many things, from Emily's elementary school days to her high school years. Back then, I was still getting along well with Emily, but around the middle of her junior high years, tension started to develop between us. We talked about Emily's life from when she entered university up until her marriage. The tensions between us had deepened, turning into a wide gap that separated the two of us. And then we talked about Julie's past.
I've always wanted to apologize. I'm sorry for being such a mother. I'm sorry.
As you did for me, I won't blame you, Julie. Besides, it's all in the past now. I want you to move forward.
Thank you.
At that moment, I saw Julie's tears for the first time. They were pure, genuine tears, nothing fake about them. I recognized those tears. They were a reflection of the bond between a mother and daughter. In this way, after 25 years, peaceful days finally arrived. It wasn't an easy path, and it was long and painful. But still, there were things I gained and things I was able to mend. The greatest thing for me was, without a doubt, being able to properly repair my relationship with Emily. After 25 years, we had finally, in the truest sense, become a family. And now, there's a new member in that family. Hello, it's Grandma.
Don't scare her too much.
How rude. I'm not scary, am I? My grandchild is laughing happily. Watching my newborn grandchild grow is, without a doubt, one of the most joyous moments of my life. There aren't huge changes every day, but no matter how much I watch, I never get tired of it. Now, Julie and I take turns. Sometimes we visit Emily's house together, sharing and enjoying the growth of our grandchild. By the way, Emily, I'm going shopping. Do you need anything?
Wait, can I ask you for something?
I had been so strict with Emily in the past that now, in response, I tended to spoil her a little too much. If I had said something like this to my past self, I wouldn't have believed it. In this way, my life reached a certain turning point, and I moved on to the next stage. I can't help but look forward to my life ahead. My niece got caught in an accident and suffered serious injuries. But instead of staying by her child's side, Nina, my younger sister, ran away with my husband and disappeared. 9 years passed, and one day at work, I happened to spot two familiar figures. There was no mistaking it. That was Nina and my ex-husband, Kent. I had no idea why they were visiting this hospital, but they didn't notice me. I froze, completely caught off guard by the unexpected encounter. Before I could decide what to do, they finally spotted me. Damn it, I thought, but it was too late. With a mocking smirk on their faces, Nina and Kent started walking toward me. Now that I got a good look at her, Nina had changed. She was stunningly beautiful. It was obvious she had spent a fortune on personal care. She had always been the type to invest in self-care, but this was excessive. With cheeks so shiny, they almost looked greasy, she twisted her lips into a smirk and spoke.
Oh, hey, sis. Still working hard? That's gotta be rough on your skin.
Leave now.
Come on, don't be so cold. It's been, 10 years? Don't you have anything else to say? Like, about the kid that became like a mummy?
At that moment, I nearly lost it. Kent didn't say a word. He just stood there, staring at the ground. I couldn't read his expression. If Brenda ever found out that this disgusting human being was her birth mother, how would she feel? I desperately wished she wouldn't be here for this, but that wish vanished into thin air.
You mean me?
From behind me, a small voice spoke in the way a child might sneak up to surprise someone. The sight of her left Nina speechless.
Helen, can you take care of this for me?
Of course, no problem.
Thank you.
I had been working as a nurse at this university hospital for nearly 20 years. I'm not trying to boast, but I knew people relied on me. Another day's work is finished. At home, a peaceful life awaited me, one completely different from my workplace. My husband, Kent, was 5 years older than me. We had no children, but we lived a modest and peaceful life together. I'm home.
Welcome back. You're late again today.
I often got home late. Kent is usually back before me and takes care of dinner. He worked for a large corporate, so it's not like he had tons of free time, but we had a good balance in our roles. I was grateful for that.
I made beef stew tonight. I'll warm it up for you now, so just wait a sec.
Thanks. We sat at the table and shared small, everyday stories from our day. That was our little slice of happiness. Then, one night, As we were eating dinner as usual, the doorbell suddenly rang. Who could be visiting at this hour? Kent and I exchanged glances. He seemed just as clueless as I was. Kent and I stood up together and checked the intercom monitor, where a woman's figure appeared. Something about her seemed familiar. For a moment, I hesitated, and then I realized who she was. It was my sister, Nina. She had shown up at my house, completely out of nowhere. Nina, what's going on?
I got abandoned.
Abandoned? What do you mean?
I found out I was pregnant and then
Nina wasn't married. I knew she was seeing someone, but I never imagined he would be this selfish.
after I found out I was pregnant and my body started changing, he told me he couldn't see me as a woman anymore. Then he left me.
More than selfish, he was heartless. Leaving a pregnant woman just because of that. Unbelievable.
So, sis, can you do me a favor? Can I stay here with you? I don't have anywhere else to go and am broke.
I had always known that Nina's income was unstable since she was working part-time. And now, on top of that, she had been abandoned. It was no surprise she was struggling. Her request was a bit too much, but she was my only sister. Still, I couldn't just decide this on my own. Just as I was thinking that, before I could even respond, Kent, who had been listening behind me, spoke up.
I'm fine with it. I'm worried about her.
Kent had a naturally kind heart, maybe too kind. Without hesitation, he agreed to let Nina stay with us. I'm okay with it too. Stay here for a while and take it easy. Thus, our life as a married couple came to a pause, and our life as a family of 3 began. Time passed, and before we knew it, our household of 3 became 4. My niece's name is Brenda. She had just started elementary school this year, a fresh first grader who looked adorable in her little backpack.
I'm heading out.
Take care.
Be careful, okay?
Strictly speaking, I wasn't her parent, but since Nina and I were raising her together, I was as good as one. Watching her growing up filled me with both joy and worry, a complex feeling that I assumed must be what parents experience. Thinking that, I couldn't help but smile. Nina, on the other hand, was also doing a great job as a mother. She was quite strict with Brenda, teaching her many things with a firm hand. To balance that out, Kent and I often spoiled her a little, which actually created a surprisingly good dynamic. By the time Brenda left for school, I had finished getting ready for work. Since Nina was staying with us, she handled the housework while Kent and I were away. She had volunteered for it, and honestly, it was a huge help. All right, I'm heading out too. Take care of things, okay?
Got it. Have a good day.
And so, just like Brenda had cheerfully said, I'm off. Leaving the house earlier, I stepped out as well. That afternoon, as I was going about my usual nursing duties, I noticed that the emergency department was unusually busy. It seemed an urgent patient was being brought in. Wanting to assess the situation, I took a few of my colleagues and headed downstairs. What I saw there shocked me to my core. The patient being rushed in was none other than Brenda, and her injuries were so severe that I could hardly bear to look. Her entire body was covered in blood. Forgetting my role as a nurse, I ran straight to her. Brenda, can you hear me? The sight of me losing my composure seemed to alarm those around me, but that didn't matter right now. She was still breathing, just barely. There was still hope. Get her to the emergency room now. Thankfully, she managed to survive. However, the doctor warned that noticeable scars on her face might remain. Of course, for a young girl, a facial scar wasn't ideal, but all I could feel was gratitude that she was alive. Later, I learned that Brenda had been hit by a car while walking home from school. The driver had been distracted, not paying attention to the road. Kent and Nina arrived at the hospital soon after.
Brenda.
Nina ran to her, but upon seeing her condition, she fell silent. Brenda had survived, but the scars would remain. That, of course, meant her face. At first, Nina had been a worried mother, anxious about her daughter's injuries. But the moment she saw Brenda lying in bed, wrapped in bandages, something in her changed. It was as if all emotion had drained from her. Nina, what's wrong?
Nothing. I'm just glad she's okay.
Her words felt hollow, as if there was nothing behind them. She quietly sat down on a nearby chair and just stared at Brenda. From that day on, I dedicated myself to taking care of Brenda, doing everything I could between shifts. It took time, but she gradually recovered. Eventually, she was able to talk normally again. How are you feeling? Does anything hurt?
I'm okay now.
But when the day finally came to remove the bandages from her face, the scars were still there. Brenda would have to live with them for the rest of her life. Thinking about that made my heart ache. Yet, through all of this, Nina never once helped care for her. She didn't even come to visit. Something must have happened after what occurred last time. As her older sister, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling I had about Nina's behavior that day. If things continued like this, Brenda would be the one to suffer. With that in mind, I decided to confront Nina after I got home. When I arrived, I noticed the porch light wasn't on. Usually, either Kent or Nina would be home by now and would leave the light on for me. Maybe they just forgot today. But when I unlocked the door and stepped inside, I was met with complete darkness. It was immediately clear no one was home. I stepped inside, tilting my head as I feel something's off, and turned on the light. That's when I saw a single piece of paper left on the dining table. Please take care of Brenda. Regards, Nina. And that was all it said. I stood frozen for several seconds, maybe even longer. I couldn't immediately process what this message meant. Then, the realization hit me. Nina had abandoned her own daughter. The unease I had felt before suddenly made sense, and at the same time, an uncontrollable anger welled up inside me. Why would she make such a foolish decision? I knew she wouldn't answer, but I called her anyway. As expected, there was no response. Next, I called Kent. He needed to know about this. But he didn't pick up either. That's when it finally clicked. Ever since that day, Nina's attitude had changed. She had probably been trying to get close to Kent. And if he gave into that temptation, Then it would explain why neither of them was answering my calls now. It felt like I was paying the price for ignoring the warning signs all along. I had been betrayed. Later, during the legal process of obtaining custody of Brenda, I learned a few things from my discussions with Nina. That day, when she saw Brenda covered in scars, she saw a reflection of her younger self.
If I have a child who looks like that, I might experience the same pain I did before. Maybe it's better if I just live my life alone.
That was what she had been thinking. If that was her reasoning, then it was only a matter of time before she abandoned raising Brenda. And, just as I suspected, Nina got close with Kent, and her plan worked perfectly. The divorce was finalized through my lawyer, and I gained full custody of Brenda. Our household of 4 was reduced to just the 2 of us. For the first time in my life, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief that I had my job. No matter what, I would raise Brenda to be happy and strong. I silently vowed to myself. 9 years passed in what felt like the blink of an eye. I had been promoted from a regular nurse to head nurse. Brenda had recovered and is now 15 years old, a 9th grader. But even now, faint scars from that accident remained on her face. It was something I could never change, and the helplessness of that fact had frustrated me countless times. The day when I had to tell her the scars would never fully fade, and that day when she also carried a wound in her heart. I had worried about those moments for years. When would be the right time to talk to her about it? Just thinking about it often gave me a headache. But despite my worries, Brenda had grown up to be a cheerful and positive young woman. Hoping to boost her confidence, I once suggested she try doing theater acting. Hey, Brenda, have you ever thought about acting?
With these scars? No way.
At first, she refused, using her scars as an excuse. But over time, whether out of curiosity or simply giving in, she eventually joined the theater club. Once she got into it, she seemed to become captivated by the joy of acting, and to my surprise, she even landed the lead role. That made me happier more than anything. I went to her performances and watched the recordings over and over again. I still haven't forgotten that moment. That memory still stands out as one of the most emotional moments of my life. But now, with high school admissions approaching, Brenda had to leave the theater club. She was now focused on studying, dedicating herself just as passionately as she had to acting. Seeing her put so much effort into something, whether it was theater or studies, gave me a deep sense of relief. Then, one day at work, I spotted 2 familiar figures. There was no mistaking it. Nina and Kent. I had no idea why they were at this hospital, but they hadn't noticed me yet. I froze, caught off guard by their unexpected appearance. How could they show their faces here? I couldn't begin to understand what was going through their minds. Morris, who had been Brenda's attending physician 9 years ago, seemed to sense my distress and approached me with concern.
Is something wrong, Helen?
No, it's nothing.
It doesn't look like nothing. Please, talk to me.
Feeling the weight of his words and kindness, I gave in and told him that Nina and Kent had shown up.
That woman? The mother from back then?
Morris rarely showed his emotions, but now his face was tense with anger. He looked like he was ready to storm over there any second. "Please, doctor, don't make a scene. I don't want to stir things up after all this time. Just stay calm."
That's easy to say. But this isn't something that should be forgiven so easily.
Before I knew it, I had become the one trying to calm him down. But the truth was, I had no desire to see them either. Nothing good would come of facing them now.
I'm being childish, aren't I? I should be the one staying composed. I'm sorry. But still, what could they possibly be doing here?
I have no idea. They have no reason to come looking for us anymore. Maybe they're just here for a regular hospital visit. As we stood there discussing it, unfortunately, we ended up within Nina and Kent's line of sight. I thought, damn it, but it was already too late. With a mocking smirk on their faces, Nina and Kent started walking toward me. Now that I got a good look at her, Nina had changed. She was stunningly beautiful. It was obvious she had spent a fortune on personal care. She had always been the type to invest in self-care, but this was excessive. Her face gleamed unnaturally, and as she twisted her lips into a smirk, she spoke.
Oh, hey, sis. Still working so hard? That's gotta be terrible for your skin.
"What are you doing here?"
What do you mean? This is a hospital. We're here to see a doctor. Kent got food poisoning.
Not only had she changed her looks, but her personality had gotten even worse. How does someone become this twisted? If he's better now, then leave.
Come on, don't be so cold. It's been, 10 years? Don't we have anything else to talk about? Like, about the kid that became a mummy?
At that moment, I was on the verge of losing my temper. Kent didn't scold her, nor did he try to stop her. He just stood there, staring at the ground, unreadable. Even Morris was at a loss for words. If Brenda ever found out that this disgusting human being was her birth mother, how would she feel? I desperately wished she wouldn't be here for this, but that wish vanished into thin air.
You mean me?
From behind me, a small voice spoke in the way a child might sneak up to surprise someone. Of all days, today was the one time Brenda had a reason to visit the hospital. Nina's words stopped in her throat the moment she saw her. Or rather, her gaze locked onto Brenda's shirt. She was wearing a t-shirt with the logo of a well-known theater club. A club that Nina had auditioned for countless times in the past, but had never been accepted into.
Why are you wearing that? That theater club?
Oh. You know them?
Brenda had no idea about her real mother's obsession with theater acting, nor that she had once desperately wanted to join that very club. It was pure coincidence. Seeing her daughter succeed where she had failed, Nina's expression twisted with a mix of emotions, desperation, bitterness, and something else. Kent stood frozen behind her, stunned. The stage she had never been able to reach, and now her own daughter is standing on it. That was a reality she couldn't easily accept.
I'm sorry, Brenda. Let's live together again. I'm your mom.
But rather than acknowledging the truth, Nina was trying to use it to her advantage. It was beyond selfish. She hadn't changed at all. And then, another voice.
I was wrong too. I'm so sorry, Brenda. Please forgive me.
But Kent wasn't even apologizing to the right person. The first person he should be apologizing to was me. What was he thinking? I looked at them, wondering what Brenda must be feeling at this moment. But no matter what she thought, I wasn't going to let these people back into our lives. Just as I was about to speak,
My mom is the only one. I don't know this flashy woman.
as expected from someone used to standing in front of an audience. With a calm and unwavering demeanor, Brenda dismissed their ridiculous apologies. But they weren't the type to back down that easily.
Flashy? Why? I'm apologizing so much. Can't you just forgive me?
Helen, I'm sorry too. I was wrong. Besides, Nina drained my purses dry. Please help me.
The fact that he was apologizing now only meant one thing. He saw potential in Brenda's future and was trying to fix his financial troubles through her. It was beyond obvious. It's too late for apologies, and I have no intention of forgiving you. I held back my rising anger and kept my voice steady. No matter what they said now, the past was over, and none of this had anything to do with Brenda. As this meaningless exchange continued, I noticed Morris approaching with other nurses. He stepped in between us.
This is a hospital. Please keep it down.
Your discharge paperwork is complete. Take care.
So Kent really had been sick, but it seemed he had recovered now, which meant there was no reason for them to stay any longer. Realizing they had no excuse to linger, they reluctantly left. Thank you, Morris. That was a huge help.
Not at all. But honestly, I'm concerned. I doubt those two will leave you alone so easily.
He was right. Those two weren't the type to give up that easily. I had no doubt they would keep coming back, desperate to cling to anything they could. But this wasn't his problem to deal with. I couldn't burden him any further. If that happens, it's a family matter. I'll handle it myself. For now, the situation had been defused. Just as Morris predicted, Nina and Kent started harassing us. Despite having abandoned our home, they kept showing up, repeatedly apologizing. Kent could only utter, "I was wrong, and please forgive me." He didn't seem to understand at all what he had done wrong at the core. Maybe his financial situation was that dire, but that was none of my concern. Meanwhile, Nina seemed to have finally confronted herself and started speaking about what she truly wanted.
I realized what I really wanted was a value of existence. I wanted to be needed. But when I got pregnant, I lost that. And when I saw Brenda covered in scars, I thought people would leave me again.
She laid everything out honestly, but that didn't make it okay for her to abandon her own child. And after stealing my husband on top of that, did she really think a confession like this would earn my forgiveness? In the end, her seduction of Kent was nothing more than an attempt to satisfy her need for validation. There had never been any real love there. Hearing this, Kent's attitude shifted again. Now that he understood Nina's motives, he suddenly lost all interest in her and doubled down on apologizing to me.
You heard her. I was manipulated. I'm a victim too. Let's live together again. Please forgive me.
It was complete nonsense. Every word out of his mouth was empty, devoid of any sincerity. Just listening to him made my blood boil. Enough already. Stop with the pathetic excuses. I had reached my limit and finally raised my voice. No matter what you say, I will never forgive either of you. Never show your faces here again.
You really won't forgive me?
This is the result of your own choices. I have no obligation to save you from them. Then, just as I was finishing my words, Brenda stepped out of her room. She looked at them and said firmly,
"You're embarrassing. I only have one real parent. I don't need three. Now come back."
With that final statement, Kent turned away. No one knew where he disappeared to after that. As she watched him leave, Nina collapsed into tears. Being completely rejected by her own daughter must have shattered her. Maybe now, true peace had finally come. The thought filled me with both relief and exhaustion, leaving me feeling too drained to even stand properly. Brenda continued to attend high school while also gaining more recognition as a theater actress.
"Mom, guess what? I got a lead role in the next play."
Really? That's amazing. It was clear that this wasn't just a coincidence. Brenda had a true talent for acting. And I couldn't have been prouder.
"I'll let you know when the performance is set. You have to come watch."
Of course I will. Just like that, I had something new to look forward to. Speaking of things to look forward to, something big was happening at work as well.
Helen, would you like to grab dinner tonight?
To my surprise, Morris had started showing interest in me. At first, I was caught off guard, but over time, I found myself accepting it naturally. Yes, I'd love to. Spending time with Morris was peaceful, delightful, and above all, comforting. Since we saw each other at work every day, most things between us just worked smoothly without much effort. I even started thinking, I hope this lasts forever.
I'll be honest. Helen, I have feelings for you.
His unexpected confession made my heart race again, just like it used to.
Am I bothering you?
Of course not. I have been feeling the same way all along. Not at all. In fact, I was thinking about saying the same thing myself.
Really? That's a relief. I was worried that after everything, this would be too much.
This and that are separate things. You've been there for Brenda since she was little. I've always wanted to repay you somehow, so let me do that by accepting your feelings.
Thank you. But I was only doing what I thought was right.
And with that, we officially started dating. When I realized how long it had been since I felt this way, it was almost like being transported back in time. As the months passed, Brenda became a junior in high school. By then, though the scars on her face were still faintly visible, she had come to accept them. Alongside her growing success in theater, she had also started volunteering. Her mission was to support children facing similar struggles, helping those who had their own insecurities. When she first told me about it, I couldn't help but admire her. This wasn't just motherly pride. It was genuine respect for her noble cause. Luckily, both Morris and I had experience in fields that could be useful. If there's anything I can do to help, just say the word. I know Morris will support you too.
"Thank you. I'll do my best."
So, I promised to support her in any way I could. Hosting relevant events and organizing workshops for adults keeps me incredibly busy. But now, somehow, I find it enjoyable. Unlike my younger years, when being too busy would wear me down, now I found joy in it, especially since it meant spending time with my daughter. By this time, our weekends often included Morris as well, as we moved toward remarriage. He had grown fond of Brenda, and even on days when I was working, he would go watch her performances. I feel truly happy now. After all the hardship, I finally found peace, and every night, I pray that this lasts forever.
At midnight, unable to fall asleep, I decided to go downstairs to get some water. Being careful not to make any noise, I approached and saw that the lights were unexpectedly on. I could also hear my hushed voice.
Did you see her? The way she desperately tries to please us. It's hilarious.
Yeah, the look on her face when she saw the food in the trash. Priceless.
And when she asked, "Did you not like it?" I almost burst out laughing.
She's useless.
They were laughing as they mocked me. I wished it were just a bad dream. But it had already reached a point where I could no longer ignore it. I had reached my breaking point. Ever since Lucas and Anna moved into our newly built house a few months ago, they had completely ignored me. The three of them would smirk at me with unsettling grins. Lately, I'd gone beyond anger and sadness. I felt nothing at all. Once I decided to leave this house, I wasted no time. I quietly returned to my room and started looking for a temporary apartment. The next evening after work, I packed my essentials, stuffing what I needed into my suitcase. After leaving the house and arriving at my temporary apartment, all three of them called me that same day.
Mom, get back here now.
I was planning to treat you to dinner tonight. Please, just come back home.
Where the hell are you? Stop being stubborn and come home.
All of them kept saying the same thing, telling me to come back over and over. Thinking back on everything that had happened, I gave them my response. My name is Jessica. I work full-time while also managing the household. My husband, Brian, also works, and every morning at the breakfast table, he complains about his coworkers. It's become a daily routine.
These younger employees today don't even want to answer the phone. It's ridiculous.
Well, times have changed. Everything is handled through social media now.
They have no sense of professionalism. Back when I was their age.
And from there, he goes on and on about his past. I usually just listen, trying not to roll my eyes. To be honest, Brian has a pretty old-fashioned mindset. He believes that men should work outside the home, while women should stay home, take care of the household, and devote themselves to their husbands. He also insists on having control over everything at home, playing the role of the traditional head of the household. When our son, Lucas, got married and moved out, Brian wasn't happy when I told him I wanted to work full-time, but I managed to convince him.
Oh, by the way, about the new house we're planning to build.
Brian brought it up with excitement, and I responded with a half-hearted reply. Even though he's already in his 50s, he suddenly decided he wanted to buy a brand new house. He claims that spending retirement in a new home would be much more comfortable than staying in an old one. But isn't our current house fine? Instead of rebuilding, we could just remodel.
Nope, not happening. It has to be brand new.
Once Brian made up his mind, he refused to budge, insisting that we had to build a new house whether I liked it or not. In the end, I gave in and contacted a home builder.
Once it's finished, let's invite Lucas and Anna over for a party. They'll love it.
Brian was already getting excited, planning out the party menu. Of course, it was obvious he'd leave all the arrangements and serving up to me while he just picked the dishes. I let out a quiet sigh. Before long, the new house was completed, and Brian and I moved in right away. That distinct scent of fresh wood typical of a new home filled the air.
Aren't you glad we built it?
Brian puffed out his chest proudly. Even though it was just the two of us, a two-story house felt a little too big. But for once, I had to admit, I was kind of happy too. A month later, Brian and I invited Lucas and Anna over for a housewarming party. As soon as our son Lucas and his wife Anna stepped inside, their eyes lit up. Since they were currently living in an apartment, they couldn't stop expressing their amazement.
It's huge.
Wow, what a beautiful house.
Brian, clearly pleased with their reaction, casually threw out a suggestion.
You know, if you guys want, you could move in with us. We've got plenty of extra rooms.
Come on now, there's no way they'd want to live with us. Stop joking. I laughed it off, and the night ended on a warm and cheerful note. Never in a million years did I expect them to take those words seriously and actually move in. Just a few days after the party, Lucas and Anna showed up with huge suitcases in tow. What's with all that stuff? Dumbfounded, I stared at them as Lucas tilted his head.
What do you mean? We came to live here.
Brian said it was okay, didn't he?
Without a hint of hesitation, they walked right in like they owned the place. When I asked about their apartment, they said they had already started the lease termination process and would be out by the end of the month. This is way too sudden. I had hoped they would live independently, so I tried to gently discourage them. But they wouldn't hear it. Instead, they turned to Brian for support.
It's fine. Whether it's one extra person or two, what's the difference?
It's not just about numbers.
Besides, they already canceled their lease. They'd have nowhere to go. That'd be cruel.
That's their responsibility. Even as I argued, Brian refused to budge. And just like that, they practically forced their way into living with us. After a while, a moving truck pulled up in front of the house, and a group of strong-looking movers started unloading boxes one after another. Once they were done, they left with bright, friendly smiles. After that, Lucas and Anna's belongings were scattered all over the new house. But instead of unpacking, the two of them just made themselves comfortable in the living room. They lounged around, scrolling through their phones, doing absolutely nothing. Aren't these your things? You need to put them away. There was barely any room to walk.
We're tired. You do it, Mom.
They hadn't even lifted a finger. Almost everything had been carried in by the movers. Brian didn't say a word as he watched them. He just gave the pile of boxes a quick sideways glance. Brian, say something to them.
Don't be so uptight, Jessica. Just do it for them. We're family after all.
With that, he turned his attention back to his phone. Why me? I thought to myself, but took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Some of those boxes probably had fragile or valuable items inside. Even though we were family, I didn't feel comfortable handling their personal belongings. Anna, could you at least help me out? At that, all 6 eyes turned to me, and they responded one after another.
Are you trying to bully your daughter-in-law? What a monster-in-law.
Unbelievable.
Where's your hospitality?
I was completely baffled by how they were treating me like I was the unreasonable one. All I did was ask them to unpack their own belongings. How was that wrong? Fine. Forcing a smile, I simply gave in and started unpacking. While the 3 of them relaxed, I worked alone, sorting through their things. By the time I finished, the sun had set, and I was already exhausted before even starting to cook dinner for the 4 of us. That night, completely drained, I fell asleep the moment I hit the bed. The next morning, still feeling exhausted, I made my way down to the living room. There, I found the 3 of them already up, sipping coffee.
Thanks for yesterday.
As I stared at them absent-mindedly, Lucas muttered those words. It didn't sound particularly sincere, so I just gave a short, indifferent reply.
To show our appreciation, we'll treat you to dinner tonight.
I thought I must have misheard, but apparently not.
Anna and I are going grocery shopping today.
Anna glanced at me from a distance and gave a small nod. Oh, well, that would be nice. I'll leave it to you then.
Jessica, we just moved in, and we're a little short on cash.
So, actually, could we borrow your card?
I blinked in surprise. They were planning to use my card to buy groceries and then treat me to dinner with the food they bought, which felt a little off. But they asked for my credit card so confidently that I almost started to doubt myself. Should I really give it to them? I glanced at Brian, but he just sipped his coffee as if none of this concerned him. I hesitated, but since I wanted to maintain a good relationship with them, I decided to lend them my card just this once. Lucas and Anna lit up like kids who had just gotten an allowance. Make sure you use it responsibly. I warned them, though deep down, I was a little hopeful. I had hoped that this dinner would be an opportunity for us to grow closer. You can use anything in the kitchen, including the dishes. The spices are in this cabinet. I opened each cabinet, showing Anna where everything was, and she nodded in response. She seemed a bit unenthusiastic, but I didn't think much of it. That evening, when I came home from work as usual, Lucas and Anna had already prepared dinner. Oh, how nice that would have been. Instead, when I stepped into the living room, the house was dark and eerily quiet. I turned on the lights to see if Lucas and Anna were somewhere in the house, but they were nowhere to be found. On the living room table, there were only a few store-bought deli items, likely from the nearby grocery store. And right in the middle of the table, there was a note left behind.
We're eating out.
That was all it said. As I stood there in shock, Brian came home and glanced at the dining table. The moment he saw the store-bought food, his face twisted in irritation.
A housewife shouldn't be cutting corners.
It wasn't me. This was Anna and Lucas doing. They said they would take care of dinner tonight. Even after finishing my meal, I couldn't shake my frustration. The next morning, I wanted to confront Lucas and Anna about what had happened the night before. Good morning. But when I greeted them, my words seemed to dissolve into thin air. No one responded. Up until yesterday, they would at least reply. Feeling that something was off, I went ahead and prepared breakfast for 4 and set it on the table. However, no one touched the food. They just sat in the living room, sipping their coffee in silence. I decided to take the initiative and greeted them again, trying to create an opportunity to talk. Good morning. No response. The next day, and the day after that, the three of them remained silent, refusing to acknowledge me no matter how many times I spoke to them. Even after a month, nothing changed. I kept preparing meals, only to be completely ignored, leaving me with nothing but a sense of emptiness. Maybe this is my fault somehow. I didn't know how long this would last, but I told myself I needed to endure it to some extent. Hoping that one day the three of them would open up to me, I made an effort to reach out. I cooked Brian's favorite meals, tried reminiscing with Lucas about his childhood, and invited Anna to go grocery shopping. But no matter what I did, they kept ignoring me, and time just dragged on. Another week passed, and not only did they refuse to eat the meals I made, but they even started throwing them in the trash. Lucas, I thought you liked this dish? I could hear my own voice trembling. That meal was something I had made from scratch, a dish he had loved since he was a child. Watching him silently toss the food straight into the trash can beside the sink filled me with a strange sense of fear. Not long after that, Brian handed me a piece of paper. No, rather than handing it to me, it would be more accurate to say he threw it at me. Just as I was about to enter the living room, I saw a neatly folded paper airplane, aimed straight at me. Ouch, what is this? I picked up the paper that had hit my forehead. It looks like some kind of document, but what is it? Suspicious, I unfolded it, only to find that it was a divorce form. Brian had already filled out his part, leaving only my section blank. In disbelief, I turned toward where the paper airplane had come from, only to see Brian smirking at me. Beside him, Lucas and Anna were giggling, mocking me. A divorce form, of all things. He was making it clear that he wanted to end our marriage. Overwhelmed, I ran out of the living room and locked myself in my room. In shock, my mind spun as I paced around the room. They're not just ignoring me anymore. They've escalated to this kind of harassment. What is going on? I couldn't stop thinking about the possibility of divorce, and the thought unsettled me. For the next 3 months, the silent treatment continued, along with the relentless paper airplane divorce form. I had assumed this harassment would end soon, but there was no sign of it stopping. The three of them would smirk at me with eerie grins. At this point, I felt nothing anymore. I was beyond anger or sadness. I was just completely exasperated. Should I just divorce him? A small voice in my head whispered the thought. Around this time, I started keeping a journal to organize my thoughts. I opened my notebook, grabbed a random pen from my drawer, and began scribbling. I had recently discovered that Lucas and Anna weren't working at all. I overheard them chatting with Brian, completely ignoring my presence. I wasn't sure if they had lost their jobs before or after moving in, but they had been without income for quite some time. Worse, they had no intention of getting jobs or helping out around the house. They even scoffed at the idea. So what were they doing while they were out during the day? Apparently, they were just using my credit card to have fun. The card I had lent them to buy groceries had never been returned. When I checked my statements, they were filled with charges from high-end restaurants and luxury brands. They often went out, saying they were going to eat out, but they were always using my card. Brian, however, didn't seem to say anything about it. The thought of them treating money as if it were an endless fountain infuriated me. Finishing my entry, I closed my notebook and shut my eyes. What exactly do they want from me? One night, I suddenly woke up for no reason. Even though I knew I needed sleep for work the next day, I couldn't seem to fall back asleep. At midnight, I decided to go downstairs to get some water. Being careful not to make any noise, I approached and saw that the lights were unexpectedly on. It wasn't just the lights spilling out from the doorway. I could also hear Brian's voice.
Did you see her? The way she desperately tries to please us. It's hilarious.
Yeah, the look on her face when she saw the food in the trash. Priceless.
And when she asked, "Did you not like it?" I almost burst out laughing.
Honestly, her cooking is below average anyway. Good job, Lucas.
I really wish she'd stop inviting me to go grocery shopping with her.
She's useless.
They were laughing as they mocked me. I wished it were just a bad dream. But it had already reached a point where I could no longer ignore it. I had reached my breaking point. Once I decided to leave this house, I wasted no time. I quietly returned to my room and started looking for a temporary apartment. The next evening after work, I packed up my essentials, stuffing what I needed into my suitcase. A few days later, I signed the lease, got the keys, and headed straight to my new place. That morning, all three of them had gone out, leaving the house empty. I called the credit card company to cancel my account and had the card deactivated. There was no reason to let them keep using it freely any longer. As I left the new house I had just moved into and arrived at my temporary apartment, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. The thought that I no longer had to endure everything made my shoulders relax, and I sank to the floor. That night, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and immediately saw that it was a call from Lucas. Hello?
Mom? Get back here now. The card isn't working.
Yes, I canceled it.
Are you kidding me? You can't just do that. What am I supposed to do? I already ate my steak.
Oh, so they had steak tonight? Must be nice. I muttered to myself in my head. Figure it out yourself. I shut him down and hung up the call as he continued to yell. Oh, so now you want to talk to me? How convenient. The next call was from Anna. It happened just as I was about to boil water for instant noodles. Hello.
Jessica, it's me. Lucas told me you canceled the card. Why would you do that?
She spoke through quiet sobs, sounding as if she were truly heartbroken.
I was planning to treat you to dinner tonight. Please, just come back home.
Her fake sincerity was unbearable, so I decided to say what I really thought. Anna, I'd be much happier if you treated me with money you actually earned.
That's so cruel. You're making it sound like I don't work at all.
Do you really think I don't know?
Well,
She stammered, clearly caught off guard. Go wash your face with some soup and try again. I shut her down and hung up. She was probably staring at her phone in confusion right now. By the way, wash your face with soup and try again is a way of telling someone to wake up and get their act together. Rather than relying on my credit card forever, she should get a part-time job and start supporting herself. The next call came from Brian. I had just poured hot water into my noodles and was about to wait 3 minutes. When I answered, I could hear the panic in his voice.
Where the hell are you? Stop being stubborn and come home.
Let me guess, you can't use the credit card anymore? There was a brief pause before he spoke.
How did you know? Yeah, that's exactly it.
I just got off the phone with the other two. Sorry, but I'm divorcing you.
What the hell are you talking about? Where are you?
Like I tell you, you, Lucas, and Anna can enjoy each other's company.
Are you kidding? Those two are nothing but parasites.
Oh, so he knew, yet he still let them use my card freely. I was too stunned to even respond.
They only moved in because they thought I was the one paying for the new house. They actually think I covered all the costs.
Oh dear, that sounds rough. I laughed.
Don't laugh. I was willing to keep you around as a housekeeper, and this is how you repay me.
I could almost see his face turning red with rage over the phone. Saying he was willing to keep me around as a housekeeper was quite the bold statement. Betray you? Who's really the one who did that? I asked, thinking back to everything that had happened. The truth was, that house had been built on land I inherited from my late parents. I was the legal owner. The land and house were in my name. Brian was the one who wanted to build a new house, but he couldn't afford the construction costs or even qualify for a loan. So, I had no choice but to pay for it with my savings. Yet he had invited Lucas and Anna to move in without asking me, ignored me, and even threw divorce papers at me. And who exactly made all that happen?
Shut up. You're such a damn net.
He spat the words furiously.
My wife's inheritance is my inheritance too. Ever heard of asset division?
The inheritance I received from my parents isn't subject to asset division.
What?
I wasn't an expert in law, but I was pretty sure I had heard that somewhere before.
That's a lie. You're just trying to cheat me.
Brian was shouting on the other end of the phone. Yelling about it won't change anything. When I said that, he became even more furious.
Then fine. We'll just change the name on the deed. I'll have the house and land transferred to me right now.
Are you planning to go to the courthouse tonight? Because I already told you. I'm divorcing you.
Can't I just go to a real estate office and get it done quickly?
My head started to ache. Brian had never dealt with contracts or paperwork before. He had always dumped those things on me. If he really believed that, he should try going to a real estate office himself. They'd probably just laugh in his face. Speaking of real estate, I paused before continuing. I already listed the house and land for sale. Once it's sold, I need you to move out. While arranging my temporary housing, I figured I might as well put the property on the market. The location was great, and the real estate agent was confident it would sell quickly. In fact, ever since it was listed, there had been a lot of interest. When I said that, Brian seemed unable to process it and didn't say a word in response. All that confidence from earlier had completely disappeared. It was almost comical. Oh, and I already filed the divorce papers you threw at me. We're officially done, so don't contact me again.
What do you mean? Wait, hey.
He suddenly snapped back to reality and started panicking, but it was too late. We're divorced, Brian. Goodbye.
No, wait. Before that, what did you just say? Are you listening?
I ended the call before he could finish. The cup of noodles had been sitting there, the noodles now too soft. Realizing that I was finally free from them, even overcooked noodles tasted good. About a week after listing the house for sale, I received a call saying a buyer had been found. Since it was a newly built home, I expected it to be quite expensive, but the buyer was willing to pay the full amount in cash. I immediately agreed, and we scheduled the sales contract for a later date. Before that, the real estate agent suggested we inspect the property one last time, so we went to check on it. To my surprise, the three of them were still living there. Trash was scattered everywhere, The kitchen was covered in burn marks, apparently from a failed cooking attempt. Dust blanketed the rooms, and even the bathroom had a foul odor. It was in no condition to be handed over to anyone, so I had no choice but to have them vacate and schedule a deep cleaning service. Shocked, the real estate agent and I explained the situation to them. They protested loudly, saying they wouldn't accept it, but in the end, they were forced to leave. They put on a show, acting as if they understood and would move out soon, but I knew better. Sure enough, after we left, they bombarded me with phone calls. One after another, my phone rang every few minutes. Their sheer desperation was exhausting. I blocked all 3 of their numbers and cut them off on social media. Then they went as far as showing up at my workplace, so I cut ties with them right then and there. Brian was furious, but Lucas and Anna looked genuinely shocked.
You don't have to go that far.
This is too cruel, Jessica.
But not me, right? I mean, I'm your son. Oh, I know. Why don't you make my favorite meal again? I threw it out last time, but I actually love that dish.
In that instant, I remembered the sight of him tossing my food into the trash. Did he really think that back then? Don't say things just because it's convenient for you. I shut him down and turned my back on them. That was the last time I ever saw Lucas, Anna, or Brian. I had no idea where they moved, nor did I care. After leaving my temporary housing, I moved into a small apartment on my own. I continued working, but now I was finally enjoying the freedom of living alone. I had more time for myself. Maybe I'd study for a certification or start a new hobby. But for now, I just wanted to enjoy this peaceful time a little longer. I didn't need a brand new house. This small apartment was still my own little castle. Maybe I'll redecorate, add some dried flowers, and cook just for myself. Thinking about all that, I slowly poured hot water into my cup of noodles. Since it's the last time the 3 of us will meet. I called my best friend, Emily, over to my house. Me, my husband, Ethan, and my so-called best friend, Emily. Well, it's true that the 2 of them were having an affair, but after more than 20 years of friendship, I figured we could at least have one last drink together as friends. Not that I actually believed that. I filed the divorce papers today.
Anna, thank you.
Beside our last conversation as a married couple, I could hear Emily's voice in the background, going on about, "So you finally broke up? And being single after 40? That's just sad."
So, Anna, when are you moving out?
I'll be gone by tomorrow. Most of my stuff is already shipped. Ethan and Emily exchanged glances, smirking. I wonder if their love is real.
Hey, once we get remarried, let's have another drink together. Just like this. After all, we're friends, right?
I stared at Ethan, wide-eyed. Sorry, but you're the only one who still thinks we're friends. And that new partner of yours, it's not gonna work out. Because you don't even know who's really sitting next to you. you guys won't be getting remarried. I wonder what'll happen when I say my next words. Oh well, I don't care anymore. Because Emily is actually your. Cheers.
Happy birthday, Ethan. 47, right?
Yeah, thanks.
I'm Anna. Today is my husband Ethan's birthday. Back in the day, we used to celebrate properly, going out to restaurants or theme parks. But we're too old for that now. These days, it's become a tradition to just have a casual drink at home. And every year, my best friend, Emily, joins us. Well, I guess now she's Ethan's best friend too.
So, how many years have you two been married now?
Well, about 20 years, I think.
Wow, that long. That means it's been 20 years since I met Ethan too.
You two first met at our wedding, so yeah, that's right.
Wow, time really flies.
Back in college, Emily had never met Ethan, but I used to talk to her about him all the time, so she probably knew more about him than anyone else. Likewise, I talked to Ethan a lot about Emily, so the moment they met, they hit it off right away. And there was one more thing.
I was so shocked when I first heard. I never expected someone as kind as you to have grown up in the same kind of foster home as me.
I was surprised too. That loneliness of not having parents. I guess it never fully goes away. But having someone who understands that really helped me a lot.
But you had foster parents, right?
Yeah, I did. And I'm really grateful to them. But still, they're not my biological parents.
Well, I stayed in the system until high school, then started working and living alone. No foster parents for me. But now I have a boyfriend, so I'm not lonely.
You two have been together for a long time now. Have you thought about moving in together or getting married?
I want to, but he's always so busy.
Ethan and Emily had something in common. Both of them lost their parents in accidents when they were young and grew up in foster care. After we got married, Ethan struggled with the fact that he had no blood relatives, especially after seeing me with my family. During that time, Emily, who had been through the same thing, supported him. And now, he seems fine. I can only be grateful to her for that.
But hey, today's a celebration. None of that sad stuff. Cheers.
I got some really nice snacks for tonight.
Yeah, I want to eat this one.
Hey, Emily, the birthday boy gets to pick first.
Oh, it's fine. I'll take this one.
Ethan, you spoil Emily too much. Well, if you're okay with it.
All right, then I'll have this one. Time to eat and drink.
And just like that, we wrapped up Ethan's birthday celebration. Well, at some point, both Emily and I ended up falling asleep, so Ethan took care of most of the cleanup. That kindness of his is one of the things I love about him. But fun times like these never seem to last. That thought crossed my mind as I stared at the earring in my hand, as if it were someone else's problem. The day after the party, Ethan had already tidied up the living room, so I was cleaning the other rooms. While dusting the bedroom, I spotted something glimmering under the bed. I'd lost a necklace recently, so I figured that must be it and reached underneath. The moment my fingers touched it, a sharp sting shot through my hand. Wait, this is... When I opened my hand, I found an earring. It was beautifully designed, with a diamond set in it, sparkling under the room's light. It looked like something pretty valuable. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was, it wasn't mine. Yet it looked oddly familiar. Wait, I've seen it on social media before. That's when the worst possible thought flashed through my mind. No way. Ethan's my best friend since high school. There's no chance. A chill ran down my spine, making my head feel dizzy. I hurriedly pulled out my phone and started searching for a particular post. It didn't take long to find it a picture of the exact same earring, captioned, "Got these from my boyfriend for our anniversary." It is exactly the same as the one I'm holding now. It was Emily's. Emily's earring had somehow ended up under our bed. Sure, we're close, but I've never let her into our bedroom. At least, not from my end. But what about Ethan? What if Ethan invited Emily into this room? What if he let her sleep in this bed? I wanted to believe in Ethan. I wanted to believe in Emily, but as I stared at the earring in my hand, I couldn't say a single word. I just stood there, frozen. After that, I couldn't focus on anything. Before I knew it, night had fallen, and I hadn't even started making dinner. That's when Ethan walked in.
I'm home. Wait, Anna. What's wrong? You feeling okay?
He looked worried as he saw me sitting in the dark on a chair in the living room. It must be a misunderstanding, right? Clinging to that one fragile hope, I silently placed the earring on the table. I found it under our bed. It's Emily's, isn't it? Ethan froze, not saying a word. Say something. Did something happen with Emily yesterday?
Anna, you're overthinking this. I didn't do anything.
Really? Ethan chuckled like it was nothing and sat down across from me.
She wasn't feeling well while she was out one day. And since we live close, she came here to rest. She looked pale, so I let her lie down in the bedroom. She probably forgot it here back then.
When was this?
Well, sometime last summer. So, 3 months ago? I forgot to tell you. Sorry for making you worry.
Ethan apologized, looking genuinely remorseful. But that only confirmed to me that he was lying. I felt my vision blur, but I held back the tears. This earring, Emily was in the bedroom yesterday, wasn't she?
I told you it was months ago.
But this earring is spotless. There's not a speck of dust on it. If it had been under the bed for months, wouldn't it be covered in dust by now? Well. Not to mention, she posted a selfie on social media about a week ago, and she was clearly wearing these. And she was wearing them yesterday too. I wanted Ethan to just say he carried Emily to the bedroom after she fell asleep last night. If he had said that, I might have been able to believe him. But Ethan lied. He hid what happened last night. There was a reason he had to hide it. And there's only one possible reason. Also, you know, I was actually awake last night, and I heard some weird noises. That was a bluff. I hadn't woken up at all last night. I'd slept soundly. Right now, I was the one lying to Ethan. Ethan, tell me the truth. Ethan's always been weak against this kind of tone and situation. Well, if he were truly a kind person, he wouldn't be cheating in the first place.
Oh well, guess I've been caught. But honestly, whatever. Emily's been telling me to break up with you for a while now. It was bound to happen sooner or later.
So, it's true?
Yeah. I'm divorcing you and marrying Emily. Last night, after you went to bed. Well, you get the idea.
You're the worst.
You can think whatever you want. But someone like you, who grew up surrounded by love, could never feel the loneliness inside me.
I see. So, divorce it is.
Yeah. Pack your stuff and leave as soon as you can.
I will. Goodbye. I walked out of the living room. That was just like Ethan. He wasn't the kind of person who could completely cut someone off. A little weak-willed, easily swayed by someone as pushy as Emily. Maybe Ethan still loves me. No, I need to stop that kind of wishful thinking. I have no intention of forgiving him. I let out a deep sigh, went back to my room, and called Emily.
Hello, Anna. What's up?
I found your earring under my bed.
Oh, really? Oops, my bad. I'll come pick it up later.
That's not the point. I already heard everything from Ethan. So, Ethan is the boyfriend you've been talking about.
Oh, so you found out. Yeah, it's been, 5 years? Maybe even longer if you count the time we had feelings for each other.
I was shocked at how long it had been. All this time, they had been playing me for a fool. The love Ethan had given me was a lie. I felt so empty, so disappointed, that I couldn't even find the words to respond. Hey, Emily, knowing how calculated you are, I have to ask, did you leave it there on purpose?
Who knows? But I was getting tired of waiting for you two to break up, so this is a relief. Anyway, I gotta go. Got a date now.
Emily gave me that cryptic response and then hung up a date right now. What a nerve. For 5 years, my husband and my best friend had been betraying me. How did I not notice? Frustration, anger, and sadness swirled inside me. I didn't even want to think anymore. I skipped dinner and just went straight to sleep. The divorce went through surprisingly smoothly. I found a new place, and all that was left was packing and moving out. Even after deciding on the divorce, we still had to live under the same roof for a while. That's the worst part about being married. We didn't fight, but there were no smiles, no unnecessary conversations. It felt like talking to a robot that only communicated business matters. Actually, a robot would be better. At least they're loyal to their owner. Huh? This photo. As I was sorting through my things, I found a picture. It was a family photo, a friendly-looking couple smiling, holding a little boy and a baby. I recognized it instantly. Emily had shown me this picture years ago, saying it was her family. So why was it in Ethan's room? Did Emily give it to him? But would she really hand over such an important family photo, even to her boyfriend? Could it be the couple in this picture? No way, it couldn't be. I swallowed the words that had risen to my throat and placed the photo on the desk. But I couldn't shake off the possibility that had flashed through my mind for a moment. I should check. I picked up my phone and called Ethan's adoptive mother, whom I had been planning to visit soon. A few days later, when I arrived at my in-laws' house, the first thing she did was apologize.
I'm so sorry for what Ethan did. I want you to know I'm on your side, Anna. If you ever need anything, just say the word.
No, you don't have to apologize. Ethan is the one at fault. Even though she wasn't related to Ethan by blood, technically just a stranger, she apologized as if it were her own mistake. That's how much she had raised Ethan, as if he were truly her son. If I ever became a mother, I would want to be like her. Actually, I came today to let you know that the divorce has been finalized. Anne, there's something I wanted to ask you.
Of course, ask me anything.
Hearing her response, I carefully took the photo out of my bag. I'm sorry if this upsets you, but I found this while sorting through my things. This photo, do you recognize it? She slowly took the photo and narrowed her eyes.
Oh my, this brings back memories. Ethan carried this photo with him all the time at the orphanage. It was the only family picture he had left.
So, these two in the photo, they're Ethan's real parents, right?
Yes, that's right. But why do you ask?
No reason. Even as I said that, I felt chills run down my spine at the possibility that had briefly crossed my mind. But to be certain, there was still one more thing I needed to confirm. Does Ethan have a younger sister?
Yes, she was at the same orphanage, but she was still a baby back then. We felt terrible separating them, but we could only adopt Ethan.
I had never heard that before. Ethan had a younger sister. Does she have a copy of this photo?
Of course. The orphanage staff made sure she got one, so that when they grew up, they could recognize each other.
I see. The people in this picture were Ethan's real family. And Emily had shown me this same photo before, saying it was her family. If Ethan's sister also had a copy, then it was highly likely that Emily's photo was the same one. Then that means... Actually, this isn't the first time I've seen this picture. Ethan's affair partner. Emily showed me this exact same photo, saying it was her family.
What? Then, those two are.
They might be siblings.
What? If that's true, then everything changes.
Yes, but I don't have solid proof yet. That's why. Would you come with me to confirm it?
Of course, if I go, the orphanage staff will be more open about sharing information. Let's go.
After that, we visited the orphanage where Ethan had grown up, as well as some local government offices. And the results were clear. They were siblings. And they had no idea. I couldn't tell if this was a cruel twist of fate or just plain tragic. Even Ethan's adoptive mother gave a strange smile. Well, their relationship wasn't my concern. Right there at the government office, I submitted the final divorce papers. How would they react when they found out the truth? That night, I invited Emily over, saying it would be the last time the three of us met. Sure, she had been cheating, but after more than 20 years of friendship, I figured we could at least have one last drink as friends. Of course, that was just an excuse. I submitted the divorce papers today.
Thanks.
Wow, you finally broke up. Took you long enough. I'm getting old waiting here. Oh, but now you're single, Anna. Maybe that's even worse.
Emily.
What, Ethan? You're on my side, remember? Don't act like the victim.
But
Ethan, who do you love?
you, Emily.
I love you too.
What am I even witnessing? Emily was all over Ethan like she had been waiting for this moment, while Ethan looked hesitant. Honestly, I had no feelings for Ethan anymore, so I didn't care. But hearing their sickly sweet voices in front of me was just unsettling. If they were trying to pity me, they could stop right now. Oh, and here, I'm giving this back to you, Emily.
Oh, my earring. Thanks. This is a really expensive one.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw the transaction on the bank statement.
Right? Ethan bought it for me for our 5-year anniversary. We even went on a trip then. You knew that, right?
Oh yeah, he told me he was on a business trip for a week around that time.
Yep, that's the one. Ethan was too passionate, you know?
I really wish she'd stop with these disgusting stories. Who in their right mind would want to hear about their ex-husband and ex-best friend's cheating memories? Ethan, as usual, stayed silent, but he held Emily's hand like it was the most precious thing in the world. A poor soul who had completely misunderstood the nature of love.
By the way, when are you moving out, Anna?
I'll be gone tomorrow. Almost all my stuff is already shipped out.
Oh, where to? Somewhere nearby.
I'm not telling you. Why do you want to know?
Oh, just curious. I want to flaunt my relationship with Ethan, of course. Oh, but don't get me wrong. I do want to stay friends. We're besties, right?
That's even more reason not to tell her. I had no intention of ever dealing with them again. Honestly, Emily had become a completely different person in just this past month. When did you get so nasty, Emily?
Wow, rude. That really hurts, Anna. Ethan, comfort me.
There, There. You're a good girl. I love how you get all clingy.
Anna was never the type to be affectionate, huh?
Sorry for not being cute enough for you. I'm stepping out for a bit. I couldn't take the atmosphere anymore and headed to the bathroom. The cool air in the hallway helped clear my head a little. I stayed there for a while, trying to calm myself down, and just as I was about to return to the living room, Emily walked out. It wasn't like I was scared of her. We had known each other for years. But my body tensed slightly. She no longer had that pure, bright smile. Instead, it was a smirk filled with malice.
Oh, Anna, you were gone so long. I thought you were crying in the bathroom, so I came to check.
Well, thanks for your concern.
Of course, it's no fun if you're not around to watch, you know? Now hurry up and get back in there.
Why, Ethan?
What?
You've always been popular, Emily. You didn't need to steal Ethan. Why him, and why now? That question had been nagging at me. Sure, Ethan was kind, handsome, had a good education, and a stable income. But my friends used to say he seemed a bit unreliable. He was never particularly popular, and he'd only had 2 or 3 girlfriends before me. Emily, on the other hand, had always been adored for her charm. She was cute, friendly with everyone, and even the girls never resented her. She had always had great relationships with people. Back in high school, she even dated the most popular senior. So why, of all people, did Emily choose Ethan?
Oh, that's what pisses me off about you the most. You want to know why I went after your husband? It's because I wanted to wipe that peaceful look off your face.
A peaceful look.
You had a loving family, got into the college you wanted, landed a great job. Why is it that only you get to have everything go your way? It's not fair.
Not fair? I'm sorry about your family, but everything else, I worked hard for that.
I worked hard too, but nothing ever went right for me.
That's not true. You had way more friends than I ever did. Everyone adored you. What more did you want?
That was all just fake politeness. Do you know how many people actually wanted to spend time with me? None. Not a single person ever invited me out on weekends. I was always alone.
Alone, Emily? That couldn't be true. She was always surrounded by people in class, and even after we started working, she would excitedly talk about her coworkers.
The only guys who came after me were the worst kinds. And at work, they called me a flirt, like it was my fault. As if I was the one chasing after them.
I had never heard any of this before. Emily always spoke about her life like she was happy. All this time, everything I believed about our friendship had been a lie. That realization hurt more than anything. More than the cheating, more than losing my husband. We hadn't been real friends for a long, long time.
And you got into the college you wanted, met Ethan, had the perfect wedding, and even after 10 years, you never once complained about your life.
Her face twisted in frustration as she spat out those words. Her eyes were filled with something I had never seen before: bitterness, sadness, and deep resentment.
so I decided to ruin it. There was no way I was gonna let you be the only happy one. Ethan is a great guy, and I'll marry him and be happy. You can go live your life alone.
With that, she stormed back into the living room. She was probably clinging to Ethan by now. Hearing all of that from Emily, I couldn't help but feel a little awkward. I let out a sigh and pushed open the heavy door.
Anna, you okay? Is your stomach hurting?
Seriously, is that something you say to your ex-wife?
Sorry.
Oh, Ethan, don't make me jealous.
Don't worry, Emily. I won't leave your side.
Thanks.
Emily laughed, genuinely happy. But was their love real? Honestly, I didn't care anymore.
I can't wait for our wedding. What kind of ceremony should we have?
Whatever you want, Emily.
You're so sweet. Should we do it in Hawaii?
If that's what you want.
Knew it. You're the best.
Hey, Anna, once we're married, we should all drink together again. Just like this. We're still friends, right?
That sentence snapped me out of any lingering feelings. A wave of disgust for Ethan washed over me, wiping away the last traces of my hesitation. Oh yeah, I found something interesting while I was packing up Ethan's room. I pulled out the photo I had brought with me and placed it in front of them.
What?
My family photo. I thought I lost this.
Wait, hold on, a family photo?
Oh yeah, I never showed you, Emily. This is my real family. Not that it matters. I have no idea where my parents are, and I don't know what happened to my little sister.
Ethan shrugged as he said that. Meanwhile, Emily stood frozen beside him. Well, of course she was. She had called that exact same photo her family, after all. Well, that means you two can't get married.
What do you mean?
Because your sister is right there.
What?
Want me to spell it out? Emily is your sister.
Seriously?
Ethan shouted louder than I had ever heard before, shaking his head in disbelief. Emily started trembling, unable to process what was happening.
How can you say Emily is my sister? Do you have any proof?
I do. Emily has the exact same photo.
Emily? Is that true? Do you really have it?
With shaking hands, Emily pulled her bag closer and took out a photo. Placing the two pictures side by side, it was clear they were identical. Ethan stared at them, and his face twisted into despair.
This can't be.
I checked with the orphanage and the records at the government office. You two are really siblings. Congrats, you found your real family.
This isn't good. Not at all. This means we can't get married.
Emily, seemingly snapping out of her shock, turned her frustration toward me.
This is awful.
Calm down, Emily.
Shut up. Why didn't you tell me sooner?
I lost that photo years ago, and I never imagined you could be my sister.
I mean, I did think you had this weird big brother vibe, and we got along strangely well, and we had similar tastes. But still, this is the worst.
Emily stood up, practically hysterical, flailing wildly. Ethan tried to hold her down, looking into her eyes, but Emily kept shaking her head furiously. In her struggle, her hand accidentally hit Ethan in the head, making him groan and crouch down in pain. But Emily didn't even seem to notice, continuing to hurl her frustration at me.
Are you happy now, ruining my life? Just because yours got messed up a little, you had to drag me down too. What? Am I not allowed to be happy?
She glared at me so intensely that I instinctively took a step back. Then, a shadow gently pulled her in. It was Ethan.
Aren't you happy? I'm really glad I got to meet my sister. This is happiness.
Sure, meeting my brother is great, but this isn't what I wanted. I can't be happy like this.
Why not?
I wanted it to be that Anna was single while I was getting married, but now I can't get married.
Emily screamed, then burst into tears. So she had only ever seen me as someone to look down on. Maybe it was a good thing I finally realized that. Ethan gently wiped away Emily's tears and pressed his forehead against hers. Then, with a soft expression I had never seen before, he spoke.
Emily, do you not love me?
I love you. That's why this is so hard. I can't just move on to another guy now.
Then it's fine. I'm truly happy to have found my sister. We'll always be together.
Ethan.
The two embraced each other.
Anna, I've been thinking about this for a while. I really love Emily, and she's important to me. But I also love you. I'm sorry for everything. But can't we start over?
Ethan reached out to me. His voice was oddly smooth, his tone unusually gentle. His eyes, though, were hollow, reflecting nothing. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't the Ethan I knew anymore. Why? You'll stay with Emily, won't you?
Emily is my sister, and you're my wife. This way, I can love you both, and you two can stay close. Isn't this a great idea? I'm sorry for making you feel lonely.
Ethan spoke dreamily, his cheeks flushed as if he had just discovered the perfect solution. He was completely insane. Sorry, but I already submitted the divorce papers. There's no going back.
What?
Oh, and one last thing, Ethan. I'll tell you something good. What you feel for Emily, it's not love.
What?
It's just family love. With that, I said goodbye to the apartment I had lived in for 20 years. After that, I filed for compensation from both of them, moved out without ever seeing them again, and completed my relocation. Since they had practically confessed to all their cheating, I ended up receiving a larger settlement than I expected. I heard they had moved in together despite Ethan's mother's opposition, but as expected, things didn't work out, and they eventually broke up. For a while, my phone wouldn't stop ringing with apologies and pleas to get back together, but eventually they gave up, and things quieted down. Well, I'm planning to get a new phone soon. If they start up again, I don't want to deal with the hassle. Meanwhile, I submitted a transfer request at work and am now enjoying my new life alone in a completely different place. That day, I lost both my husband and my best friend. But strangely enough, I feel refreshed. My decision that day wasn't wrong. From now on, I'm going to enjoy the second chapter of my life.